Hello, everybody. Welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today is Monday, the 25th of May, 2020. It is Memorial Day, a federal holiday here in the United States. Welcome in, everybody. It's a little bit later in the evening than I typically start. It's a tradition in the United States to barbecue on Memorial Day. I jokingly say I think it's a law. So we got that done earlier today, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do a live video or not today. Not because there's not a lot to talk about, quite the opposite. There's, at least 7 videos I could do right now. So I'm going to just focus on one at a time. And I want to give a shout out and say thank you to John Jack Wilson, who sent in the solid state drive here. There's a letter that accompanies this. Intel. This is the SSD 6. It's a 1 terabyte solid state M.2 NVMe drive. And Jack is requesting that this be used in one of the 5 Kids at Hope computer builds that I'm building for this charity. Absolutely. Consider it done. Thank you so much, Jack. Jack included a letter here that says, let's just read it. He says, I ordered this at 3 o'clock in the morning for a build I'm doing for a good long-time friend that worked with me for 20 years. And he's not a computer person, and long story short, I was going to send it back. Decided it would be better to just send it to me to put to good use. He got one of the off-lease Dell Optiplex machines for his friend, and then realized it doesn't have an M.2 slot. So that is one of the downsides on these pre-builts. You don't get all the options of a home-built computer. And that's how that sort of came about. The Optiplex 9020 with 16 gigs of RAM and an i7 CPU. He's doing his friend well and saving some money. Using those off-lease machines is probably more than enough power than your friend would ever use. But of course, it doesn't have an M.2 slot on it. And he was going to mail it, send it back, and then he thought, I'll just send it to Carey. He can use it in the Kids at Hope computer. So Jack, it was very thoughtful of you. Thank you so much for your continued support and contributions. Thanks also to the good folks over at RoboForm for taking a chance with us and supporting the channel in their sponsorship. And you'll notice a link to RoboForm is the very first thing you see under the video. Following that, the subject of today's video is from Sabrent. I've been having some good dialogue lately with the representative over at Sabrent. His name is William, and I want to give William a shout out and say thank you for looking out for me and thinking of me. The 2 terabyte NVMe solid state storage drives are what you see me use on a lot of builds. And I would love to use 4 terabyte storage, but it's just, it's hard to find. And I haven't had any customers request it, and if they do request it, they change their mind once they find out what the price is. So I was talking with William over at Sabrent, and I said, I'd really like one of those 4 terabyte drives, and I'd like to use it and put it in a long-term test in my office computer, because I'm running a 2 terabyte NVMe Intel 660p, and then 2 1 terabyte ADATA 2.5-inch SSDs. I'd like to remove all 3 of those and replace it with 1 4 terabyte Sabrent NVMe Rocket drive and see how it holds up, see how if I feel a performance difference, and also get rid of drive letters D and E and just keep everything on C. C is the 2 terabyte, D is 1 terabyte, E is 1 terabyte. Combine all those. Now I realize with like AMD and My Store, or whatever it's called, where you can sort of emulate this, but that's software and it slows everything down. So this is it. This is the $850 question. The question, of course, is if a 2 terabyte drive is somewhere around $240 and 4 terabytes is twice as much, then 240 plus 240 would be 480. So you would guess that this drive would sell for $480. And if it did, that you'd probably see me using them. Unfortunately, the manufacturing process in these chips is not as ubiquitous. The chips are not as common. That will change, of course, in time as more people demand it and supply will increase, the price will come down. But this drive currently on Amazon is how much? Anybody want to guess? Remember, two terabyte drives equal one 4 terabyte drive. This is the 4 terabyte. We'll make sure you get a nice big close up of that. You'll see they're including a Cronus there with the drive. Now, I imagine where are we at? We're in May 2020. I think by May 2021, a year from now, I think you'll probably be seeing me using 4 terabyte drives, and I expect them to be between the $400 and $500 range. But currently, you're right in between 750, $850 for one of these drives. It's over $800. I want to say. I have to look at my Amazon link now. I think it's on Amazon for $849. Now, unlike the Intel drive, which is QLC, this drive is faster than that, and we're going to replace the other Sabrent drive I've got here. This is the 3950X build that we did a while back with the Trident RGB crystal RAM, and I've got the two Sabrent drive. I'm sorry, the Sabrent drive that's underneath the graphics card. I'm going to take that out. This is a Corsair MP600. These are both PCI Express Generation 4, Gen 4 solid state NVMe drives that run about 5,000 megabytes a second. Now, this is just Gen 3, and I think it is. Yeah, this is Gen 3. So we're going to see, maximum on Gen 3 is about 3,600 megabytes a second. I mean, absolute top of the line. Of course, the Intel drives aren't going to hit that. The Intel drives that I use are there running at, significantly less money and at about half the speed. So also the sustainability, the amount of write cycles on a QLC drive is not as high as a TLC or SLC drive. Now, if you don't know what any of that means, it doesn't matter. Just kind of understand that the QLC is the bargain, the technology that's a bit slower, it's cheaper, and it doesn't have as many write cycles. So you are getting what you pay for. It costs less. However, you're unlikely to ever, under normal use, even under extreme use, quite frankly, you're unlikely to hit that maximum limit of writes before you would replace the drive for, any other reason, quite frankly, capacity or performance. In all likelihood, you will replace it before you ever suffer any sort of a failure with it. And that's not to say they don't fail, but I've yet to see a single solid state drive fail. And I'll keep saying it until I actually see one brought in either from a customer or from one I've installed. And in either case, I hear from people on the internet, and I've talked with Brian Cometa over at $300 Data Recovery, and I've seen the solid state drives that are sent to him. But I have not had a customer bring me a computer with a bad solid state drive, nor has any solid state drive that I've installed since, I guess, 2013 is when I first installed them. And they've all long since been replaced because newer solid state drives are, again, faster and larger capacities than they were back then. Steve Bass, who's going to join me on Friday to do a remote computer build, he's running in his machine a refurbished Crucial 2.5-inch solid state drive. Showed me the invoice. I think it was $299.95 for a refurbished 512 gigabyte SSD. But it still works great. But geez, that was $300 refurbed. And that was 5 years ago? I'll talk to Steve more about it. I hope you're going to join me on Friday as Steve and I build a computer side by side. Steve's in California, I'm here in Phoenix. We both have the same parts, and together we're going to build. I'm going to show Steve step by step, and then Steve's going to follow those steps. Steve is not a computer builder, so this should be an interesting experiment, and I think the only remote computer build ever done. I think. Welcome in, everybody, and again, thanks for joining me. It looks like we've got oh, I've got to refresh my page here. Got about 363 people watching. Terrell says Sabrent is advertising an 8 terabyte NVMe drive. Yes, Thank you for bringing that up. Sabrent does have an 8 terabyte NVMe drive. However, it is intended for enterprise. In other words, when you hear that word enterprise, it means big companies. Big companies with big data storage needs and big budgets. While you could use it in a home environment, you could also, plug in a rack server in a home. It's just not really designed for that. And for numerous reasons, you don't often find a rack mounted server in a home. Now, that being said, NVMe is NVMe, and an 8 terabyte NVMe drive can work in a home computer. It just would be probably the price of the entire computer. We're getting there, and we're going to get there quickly to those 8 terabyte drives. In fact, I hope by this time next year, not only did the price on these 4 terabytes become far more reasonable, but I think hopefully by this time next year, I'll be testing an 8 terabyte drive. I could be testing one before then. We'll see what happens. What time Friday will Steve and I begin to broadcast? That's a good question. Typically during the week, I will start broadcasting after 3 p.m. Pacific time. So I anticipate 3:30, somewhere right in there on Friday. And I don't know that we'll be able to complete the build in one session. We'll do what we can do until we run out of light, or we run out of, if Steve wants to throw in the towel for the day, then we'll pick it up and continue it on another day. We'll see how far we get. We might be able to get the whole thing at least booted and then deal with installing Windows 10 and that configuration stuff on another day. If I have my druthers, if I get it, if everything happens like it should, then I anticipate we should be able to build it entirely to boot up, to at least post during the Friday show. And a list of the parts is made available if you guys want to buy the same parts and follow along with our build. It's a pretty low end budget. It's a $700 or $800 computer, which, some people drop that much just on a graphics card. Of course, this won't be using a discrete graphics card. We're going to use the onboard graphics. It's an AMD build using an NZXT case. So it's going to look really nice and have really quality parts in it, not just scraping the bottom of the barrel here, not doing a $400 build. It's just, my time's worth more than that, quite frankly. Might sound a bit snobbish, but I can't wisely stay in business selling $400 computers, and furthermore, supporting $400 computers. So I don't do them. That's not to say you can't, but if I were you, I would just buy one of those off-lease Dells. If you had a $400 budget, get something that's a couple years old, and then throw a little RAM solid-state drive in it, and you'll be flying. Computers today aren't really any faster than the computers 3 years ago. They're pretty much all running the same frequency, and if unless you have very specific needs, most end users wouldn't know the difference in performance if they were, if the tower was hidden from them and you said, are you using a modern tower or are you using a tower that's 3 years old? I bet you 8 out of 10 people couldn't tell me. But that being said, contribution just came in from Mike Yazzie for $20. Hey, Mike, thank you for that. Appreciate your contribution to the channel. Carey, do you recommend a motherboard designed as a server M board for a desktop? No. No, the server boards are for servers. John Craig has contributed £5. He says, QLC drives I found make a good replacement for my mechanical drives, as I only use them for storage and not the OS, and they're nice and cheap. John, thanks for the contribution. I run off a QLC drive on my desktop in my office, and it's fast. Like, I don't. When you're going 2,000 megabytes a second and then you jump to 5,000 megabytes a second, your operating system might load a second faster. Your Word application might load 7 milliseconds faster. But if you're rendering videos or copying very large files and you're doing it often, that's where it starts to add up. But I will say you do reach a point of diminishing returns with regards to performance. And then you have to balance or counterbalance that with capacity. So in this case, we've got the 4 terabyte drive, which is also supposed to be fast. And we're going to find out just how fast here in just a moment. I'm just looking through the chat. Am I going to install the Acronis that came with the SSD? No, because the Acronis that comes with the solid state drive is a pretty limited edition, and I have a full featured license of Acronis. So I already have a full featured license. If I had no Acronis, this free Acronis would enable you to clone your existing M.2 or mechanical drive to your new drive. It's pretty limited. Acronis doesn't stay in business giving away software. I think what they're doing is they're giving you a limited version in the hopes that you'll like it and want to pay for the full version to do regular backups and some of the other utility that Acronis has. And I'm working with Acronis right now on Acronis 2021. It's currently released in beta. Looks like they're adding a lot of antivirus and security software into the backup image so you're not backing up viruses off your machine. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I just installed it last night. I haven't really had much of a chance to play with it yet, but it's still a familiar interface. So I'll keep you up to date on how that goes as well. Let me move some of this out of the way here. Stuart McMillan has contributed 19 pounds, 99p. He says, I love your work, Carey. You've taught me so much sharing your vast experience. I'm looking forward to seeing your channel grow. Keep up the great work. That's a very nice, Stuart. Thank you for your kind words and support. It means the world to me. And we'll make sure you're a moderator. Another friend in blue to add to our blue army here. Thank you so much. Paul O'Brien says, you've inspired me to build a new PC because the laptop I've got is 10 years old and it's very slow and sluggish. So thank you. Hey, Paul, when you get it built, let us share the experience with us. Let us know what that was like. I got a feeling you're going to want to do it again soon after. It's hot here. It's over 100 degrees today. So I'm chugging my Gatorade. I apologize if that's distracting, but it's that or I just collapse in a heap on the floor. So that might be a little more distracting. On the other hand, might be one of the best videos I ever made. Everything I do on this on my channel here, well, not everything. My live streams are in fact live, unscripted, unrehearsed, and unedited. Now we ideally will take pieces out. When I say we, I mean my sister. She'll take pieces out of things we can make quick tips from. Some viewers will contribute edits of longer videos and sort of get to the, if it's a build and I'm doing a lot of chatting, cutting the chatting out and just making it a solid build. So what you're seeing right now is fully live, unrehearsed, and unscripted, like much of what I do. And the parts you see me utilize, I only have one of these. If it doesn't work, review over. You'll see it's still shrink wrapped. I don't have a shrink wrap machine, and I wouldn't go through the effort to impress you, to be honest, or to trick you. What's in that for me? So I'm gonna just go ahead and open it, unbox it live on camera. G. Greenberg has contributed $4.99. He says, is Subaru Mike coming back? I have an edit on this computer of a video I shot with Subaru Mike last month. Unfortunately, it's requiring a lot of editing, and I've been so busy between setting up the other studio, trying to get these machines out, and, life, and I just haven't had a whole lot of time to edit. I'm about a half an hour into what is ultimately a 3-hour edit, so I'm not even halfway there yet. But it's coming. It is coming. And thank you for the contribution, and thank you for your question. Frankie B has contributed $2. Hey, Frankie, thank you. Carey, I see you've got a Gigabyte H370 HD3 motherboard. Are they easy to install? Andrew, I've got about 6 or 7 videos on this channel installing the H370 HD3. It's a very price aggressive motherboard. It's $100. Super easy. It's the configuration that I get asked for the most here is using that motherboard with the Mugen 5 cooler and a Core i7 9700K, 16 or 32 gigs of RAM, and typically some form of NVMe storage. Yeah, it's a very solid configuration, very quiet, no compatibility issues. It just very easy. If you're a first-time builder, that would be an excellent first-time computer build. So let's go. I'm going to unbox this here. Just want you to see everything live on the camera. So I've noticed Sabrent does this. They did this with the other rocket drive where they've got this tin, which is an unusual packing choice, only that it's got to cost a bit of money than, say, a piece of plastic like Intel uses. I don't know what other purpose this has. It seems like an unnecessary expense, and I'd rather the drive was a little cheaper and you give it to me in a piece of plastic, because this is going in the recycling bin either way. It's not like I can really use it for much after I remove the drive from it. It's nice, and I guess when you spend a lot of money on a drive, they want to make you feel like you're getting something, but I'd rather save a few bucks, quite frankly. But it's clearly the nicest packaging of any solid state drive I've ever unboxed. You know, what that has to do with capacity, storage, and performance, I don't know, but it's pretty. Here's the way it's packaged. You've got the documentation. And then the drive itself, you'll see there's no packaging around the drive, which is good. There's two cutouts on the side, that's so you can stick your fingers there and hold it by the edges. You'll see there are chips on both sides of this. Some solid state drives, there's only chips on one side, and that's because of the capacity, right? The bigger the capacity, the more chips you need. And as they start shrinking that down in manufacturing, maybe they'll get 4 terabytes on a single-sided a solid-state drive, and then the 8 terabyte ones will be double-sided, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I see Marty in the chat room. He says, good day, Carey and chat. Hey, Marty, welcome in. Good to see you, my friend. Stephen Bernstein joins us. Welcome in, Stephen. A shout out and a thank you to Peter Laycock and David Hale for their recent contributions and support of the channel, and for helping to keep me free to speak my mind and not be a mouthpiece for a manufacturer. You know, when as a computer technician, if I tell you something is good, it's because I honestly believe it's good. The big tech channels that you see here on YouTube are just big advertisements. Pretty much, they get paid to talk about a product. I mean, are you going to bite the hand that feeds you? There's videos cost thousands upon thousands of dollars to produce, and they have thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of studio equipment, soundstage space, full-time editors, full-time cameramen, probably even script writers. And then the videos are often then submitted to the manufacturers for approval before they're allowed to be released, and then they get paid. So when you install your ad blocker, just think about this for a minute. And you're so excited about how smart you are that you can skip past the ads to get right to the video. And the video you're watching is one of these great big tech YouTube channels with all those millions of subscribers who's doing nothing but a 30-minute infomercial for a product. Your ad blocker, in my opinion, should be blocking it. That's just my thought on that. But think about it. How do you think those videos are made? So I'm very happy to have my independence. It means the world to me to be able to come out and tell you exactly what I think about a product. Your contributions enable me to buy these products. And some companies endure my abuse and come back and try again, which I admire greatly. We've had some harsh reviews of some products. Silverstone sent me for free. Be Quiet sent me some products for free. And some of the products I liked, some of the products I didn't. And I'm accustomed to manufacturers going, well, he's not nice to us, we're not going to talk to him anymore. And to their credit, Silverstone and Be Quiet continue to speak to me to this day. They appreciate the feedback, and that's exactly what I'm hoping for. I'm not lashing out to hurt anybody. I'm ultimately trying to help them make what I believe is a better product so that I could recommend it. And those are just specific products, not everything across the board, obviously. Now, working with Sabrent, like I said, they sent me this. I honestly don't think I could justify $850 for a 4 terabyte drive. but I very much am curious what you get for $850. Are you better off getting two terabyte drives and putting them in a RAID 0, or are you better off having one 4 terabyte drive? And I think the question kind of falls to, there are issues regarding RAID as a boot drive when driver issues prevent you from booting and you need a special boot disk with the drivers to see it gets kind of complicated, which I learned the hard way with the Thready build with Threadripper. Or you get a small boot drive and then make that get a drive that has maybe 3 M.2s, but then they're not all going to run at high speed, which reduces the performance. The reason I said 3 M.2s is you could use one to boot off of, so you don't have to worry about RAID drivers, and then put the other two in a RAID 0, and that'll be your 4 terabyte over there. But that doesn't really work because you don't have enough lanes on a typical home motherboard, home-based end-user motherboard. You'd have to go much, much higher, like Threadripper or X299, and things start getting really expensive. And if things are going to get really expensive, why not just cut to the chase and get this and be done with it? So there's pros and cons depending on what's important to you. If you've got the M.2 slots, you want to run them both. You want to have two separate 2 terabyte drives. Don't RAID them. Just you have a C drive of 2 terabytes and a D drive of 2 terabytes because it saves you a little money. Great. Or maybe you're in the exact opposite situation. Maybe you've got two M.2 drives and you want 8 terabytes of storage, so you need to buy two 4 terabyte drives, rated or not. Maybe you just have extreme storage needs and you need that performance. So there's a lot of options and possibilities to consider when you're purchasing whatever you're going to use for your storage. And it's not always just about price. There's other considerations. For the most part, I think all NVMe drives have a 5-year warranty, if I'm not mistaken, just across the board. It's like an industry standard, I think. But you've got reliability, you've got the type of memory, the amount of cache or buffer that it has, the amount of over-provisioning that it provides, and of course, the performance. And not only just performance with large files, but small files and files in between. And for most of us, honestly, in my experience, we don't all copy small files or big files. We do a little bit of everything. So when I'm testing drives, I always test the best case scenario, which is moving big files. That'll be the top numbers on the Crystal DiskMark benchmark. And the reason for that is to just go, look, I don't care about the small file performance, right? It is what it is. I want to know, in a best case scenario, how fast is this? It's similar to how you test a car. I want to know if you go in a straight line on a perfectly smooth road in beautiful weather with new tires, how fast can that car go, best case scenario? Now, the minute you start throwing in different types of pavement or conditions of pavement, weather conditions, turns, then we're talking different performance. That's a whole different level of performance. So I like to know, in a best case scenario, how fast can that car go? If everything is perfect, what's the best it can do? So when I do buy benchmarks, that's primarily what I'm looking at when I'm testing solid state storage. I don't care about how it performs with other types of data transfer, because at the end of the day, for most of us, we do a little bit of it all. So that's the logic I use in testing. I try to keep everything as practical as possible. Because as somebody who runs a business, you just can't really keep a business in business being impractical. Customers aren't likely to keep shelling out money for things they don't have to have, or frills in unnecessary downtime, even just to do the work. So as a business and doing the work as a technician, I'm trying to make you guys, the viewers, aware of that difference between what it is to be a tech and what it is to play one on TV, right? But that being said, anybody who loves tech is good in my book. I just want you to know the difference. That's all. I'm going to go ahead and remove the Sabrent 2 terabyte Gen 4 drive that I have in here. And I am planning to put this back the way it was. And I am planning to put this in my office PC as I mentioned earlier, and removing the 3 drives and having that all replaced with this one, and then relying on this day to day. And believe me, if I lose 4 TB of stuff, I'm going to be upset about it. But I have backups. I have a Cronus and I have backups. But that to me is a much more thorough test than just slapping it in here and running Crystal Diskmark. I'm going to follow up with you in the months ahead and let you know how the drive is performing and if I've had any problems with it. But it all starts right here, right now, with installing this drive into the test machine so we can get an idea of the benchmark. So to do that, I just need to make some room here by removing the current Sabrent drive. And I'm sure you don't really have a good view of that, and I apologize. I've let Mitch off of his leash, and he just hasn't come back yet. But, you know, he'll be back. It's kind of a tight fit between the graphics card and that M.2 slot, but this is the Sabrent drive that I reviewed earlier. And again, this is the Gen 4 Sabrent 2 TB drive, which will do about 1 TB. This is a 1 TB drive. It'll do about 5,000 megabytes per second on the reads. And that sounds great. Thready with the RAID 0 of 3 M.2 NVMe drives will do 10,000 megabytes a second on the reads. It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference in reality. You really have to be some kind of a power user that I would have to see. Because I don't know anybody who uses that computer or uses their computer that would benefit from that on a daily basis. I mean, I'm sure they're out there. I just never met one. But they exist in the internet. They're all over the internet. So, all right. So the drive's going to go in with the Sabrent title or logo facing straight up. The notch is going to be on the bottom. And I'm just going to set that into the socket, which again is a little tricky with the graphics card in the way. If I was smarter, I would have removed the graphics card before I did this. But here I am thinking, I don't need to, and it'll be easier if I did it this way. And I think I'm wrong. So guess what? I'm going to take the graphics card out. I think taking the drive out was a lot easier than putting one in with the graphics card in place like that. So this just takes a moment anyway. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about, I don't know, just being lazy and end up working twice as hard. I have had a record number of people reach out to me and ask me for free computer help. And it's like the more I talk about this and ask you not to do it, the more they do it. So I don't even know why I'm bringing this up right now. I feel bad that people are in a situation where they have a computer problem. They see my videos and they want to get advice from me. And I know they're watching the videos and they're hearing me tell them how busy I am. And they still reach out anyway and they go, hey, I know you're busy. So they acknowledge that I'm busy and then continue on with asking for free help. They're not supporting the channel. They're not donating anything. And they're asking of me to help fix their computer problem. Somebody I don't even know. They're just some stranger on the internet. And it's flattering. You know, it's flattering that people trust me and they're asking me for the help. But it sucks to put me into that corner, you know, to make me feel that uncomfortable to have to tell you no. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. I wish people wouldn't do it. That being said, when people want to send their computer to me for repair or they want to pay for repair, different story entirely. And I've got a computer coming in from Ohio where a gentleman built his computer and it stopped booting up. I guess he turns the power on, he just gets a blank screen, nothing else happens. He's replaced the CPU, it didn't make any difference, and he's afraid to go any further, and he requested to send it to me. And I said, that'd be great, you know, send it. I'd love to work on it live here on a future video. Send me your FedEx tracking number, take it to FedEx, have it shipped with the motherboard facing down, you know, lay it flat in a bigger box, have them bubble wrap it, or put 2 inches at minimum, 2 inches of packing all the way around it. Let FedEx pack it for you. It should cost somewhere around $120. He says, here's a copy of the receipt, and the receipt's like $180. I was like, holy smokes, I've never shipped a computer for $180. What are you mailing me? is it a Cosmos 2? Like, I didn't ask what the case was. Well, it's this case right here. He's sending me his computer in this Be Quiet, what is this called? A Pure Base 600, I think? 700? I think it's a 600. Anyway, the Be Quiet cases are heavy, but it still doesn't seem right to me. Like, I think he overpaid on that shipping. That's just regular FedEx ground with insurance. And I ship computers all the time. It doesn't cost that much money. And that's sort of the downside. Somebody lives in Ohio. They're mailing the computer to Phoenix. I've got to mail it back. At what point do you exceed the value of the computer in just, pocketing profits for FedEx? So I think that's really unfortunate. I wish there was more I could have done to understand how that shipping rate got that high. I expect that computer to arrive later on this week, and if I have time, I'll start that repair live later on this week. If not, it'll be the beginning of next week, depending on how my projects go here, including this one, which I have to get back to. So I just want to take the graphics card out momentarily. You'll notice I always work on a computer with the power cable unplugged. And I'm just going to set the graphics card down there, and now it'll be so much easier for me to put the Sabrent drive right into the M.2 slot here. There it goes. And I'll put the screw back in to secure that in place. Now, this drive has never been partitioned or formatted, so the computer is not going to see it right away. We have to put a partition and then format it, and it will become the D drive, which was what the Sabrent 1 terabyte drive was. Now, when you're holding electronics, always hold it by the edges. As long as you're holding by the edges, and I can hold it right side up because I'm looking at a camera. As long as you hold by the edges, you don't have to worry about electrostatic discharge. You don't have to worry about, should he be plugging the computer in so he's grounded, and all this other nonsense that these people on the internet just make up and then they pass it on to one another as though it was factual information. I saw it on a YouTube video. This guy demonstrated it. I've been doing this nearly 30 years, guys. Not YouTube. I've been fixing computers for 29 years. And back in the early days, in 1991, 1992, those were what I call the static strap days. Once the manufacturers, because I was working for PC manufacturers, once they got wise to the fact that the components on the motherboard are actually very sensitive to static while they're being, loose in a bin, being put onto the motherboard at the factory. But once the parts, and remember, this is all surface mounted technology now. We're not sticking pins through holes anymore. Once the parts are attached to the board has grounding circuits on it already. Whether or not those grounding circuits are hooked up to anything, as far as electrostatic discharge is concerned, it's irrelevant. Beyond that, if you hold all your electronics by their edges, there's nowhere for the electrostatic discharge to go that would be harmful. So I'm not anti-static strap. Does that make sense? You can wear one if you want to. But I have a problem with people criticizing me because of their lack of knowledge. It's almost like they want to scream about how ignorant they are about how electricity works because they watched a video and they know everything. And the fact of the matter is, I would not be able, no one would be able to sustain a business for over 2 decades if you're doing it wrong. You would go out of business. I promise you. You can't sustain that. So just consider that. I have no problem if you want to wear an anti-static strap. I have a problem with you telling me I have to wear one, right? Because I don't answer to you unless you're my customer. And if my customer has any problem with their computer after I've fixed it, that's my problem. That's not your problem. That's between me and the customer. And again, if that happens over and over again, pretty hard to stay in business, right? So I advise you to consider the source of the information that you're receiving on the internet and understand that I'm not a walking encyclopedia and I'm not an example necessarily of how things should be done, but I'm showing you how things can be done and done sustainably for nearly 3 decades with no issues. Again, we're going to put that word sustainable in there. Now, you can do all those extra steps. You can wear the anti-static strap. You can do all that. There's no harm in it. But it's a waste of time for me and it's unnecessary because I know how to handle the parts and I understand electricity. I actually have an education in that, not just from looking at Wikipedia articles. And I just wish some of these people that were so passionate would go to college and go get their electrical engineering degree so that they could finally understand what it is they're saying instead of just parroting out information they see online without considering the source, right? It was a computer guy, right? He's a computer guy. He knows everything. Yeah. Does that bother me? Not at all. It doesn't get to me at all. I like people telling me, I like complete strangers on the internet telling me how to do my job properly. And as far as I know, they didn't even have a job nor experience, and they don't even run a business. But that's the thank you I get for sharing my experience. I guess I should expect it. Sarcastic? Me? I will sit here quietly and say nothing. Okay, then we won't attack you. I will share my experience with you of 29 years in the industry to show you how things are actually done. Oh, we're going to attack you then. Okay, sounds fair. I've got the wireless dongle for the keyboard and mouse already plugged in. I've just plugged the HDMI cable into the back of your monitor. I need to get a power cable now. I've got the power cable already plugged into the wall. I just have to plug it into the back of the computer. I always keep the power supply switch in the off position when I'm plugging in, just in case there's any kind of short. It'll spark when I hit the on switch, not spark when I put the plug in. I can't tell you the last time that's ever happened, but it's just a process of safety that I've learned, and it's just become a habit. Is it entirely necessary? Is it entirely necessary to wear a helmet every time you ride your bicycle? I mean, how often do you fall down? I mean, I guess some of us need a helmet more than others. But the fact is, you wear it every time regardless, right? So that's what that's all about. And you might feel the same way about an anti-static strap. Don't have a problem with it. Now, with that plugged in, I'm going to go over to camera input number 2, and we're going to fire this bad boy up. Except I have to use the proper mouse. See that I can solve the most complicated problems, but picking the right mouse on the table sometimes befuddles me. So bear with me for a moment as I get this configuration correct. And I'm going to just put myself right up in the corner here, and you're going to see no signal written behind me or below me. That's the fact that there's no signal coming out of this computer because it's off. When I turn it on, a signal will come out, travel through this cable, and it will light up in colors on your screen, forming pictures and words. So here we go. Switch is on. I'll hit the power switch here. Fan is turning. And ideally, we will see a post screen here in just a moment. Here we go. So again, this is an AMD 3950X, and you really can appreciate the evolution of technology and the depreciation of the value of technology by just watching the AMD CPU prices dropping rapidly. The 3950X that's in this computer cost me $750, and I just built this, 3 months ago when the 3950 was just introduced. Today, that chip is $710. It's $40 cheaper today. It's only 3 months. It's gone down by $40, and sometimes you'll catch it on sale for another $10 on top of that, so it'll be $50 off. Similarly, the 3900, the little brother that was at $500, is now in the lower $400 range, and it's only been a couple of months. It's not like the chip's been out a year. The new 10th generation Intel chips, by contrast, you can't get one. Like a 10900K, good luck finding one. Should be a $600 chip. The only place I can find them is on eBay, and they're $800. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I don't need it. I'll wait. I'm not paying $800 for a $600 chip. So I don't know why there's an abundance of AMD chips out there. The prices are rapidly dropping. I advise you, if you're looking to go with an AMD processor, don't be one of the first people to buy it, because you're within 3 months, you will have spent, 15 or 20% more, unless that's important to you, having it first, or maybe you need it. Now, with the system booted up, let me go to my full screen mode so I can see what I'm doing over here. Where is it? Full screen projector. Here it is. Okay, I realize nothing changed for you on your end. I'm making my screen bigger so I can see. I'm going to right click on the start button here and go to disk management. And it should automatically detect I've got a new drive installed now, right? It didn't do it before. But now it says, hey, you've got to initialize this disk before you can use it. And it's obviously referring to what's called disk 1. And you go, well, if it's disk 1, then what the heck did you load Windows from? That was loaded from disk 0. Things get a little confusing that way. I remember I was in 6th grade. The teacher said, I'm going to send you home with this homework, and it'll be 10 questions. And he wrote down 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with a question after each one. And the student raised his hand. I'll never forget this. I was 11 years old in 6th grade in elementary school. That's the last year of elementary school for American students. And you move on into junior high for 2 years. And then high school, that's for the benefit of people outside of the U.S. So anyway, student raised his hand. He goes, you just wrote 11 problems on the board. You said you were going to write 10. You wrote 11. And we were all sort of dumbfounded. We're like, well, it says 0 through 10. Well, 0 is 1, right? 0 is a question that he wanted us to answer. And then 1 was the second question, and 2 was the third question. So when you got to 10, you were at 11. Did you follow that logic? So with Windows, or with computers in general, we often, but not always, but quite often start with 0. So disk 1 is the second disk. All I have to do here is click OK. And then right here, it shows 3815.43 gigabytes unallocated. I'm going to right click on this, keep this all as one big partition. I'm going to click New Simple Volume and keep it simple. Click Next, click Next, click Next. If I want to give this a name, I can call it Sabrent 4 terabyte. Then I can recognize, I don't know if that was a Freudian slip there with the dollar sign. It seems accurate either way. Oh, there's the Sabrent 4 terabyte. And then finally, we'll hit Next and Finish. And it's going to very quickly format it. And there's our drive. There's 4 terabytes of nothing, which is wonderful. Now I'm going to bring up Crystal DiskMark Portable. I do believe this is the latest version, 7.0.0H. You can download the software you see me use here for free. You can Google it. I'm going to run the, obviously, 64-bit edition of the software. And the thing you got to watch when you run the software is that you're testing the right drive. Don't just hit the first button you see, which a lot of people do. In this case, we want to go to drive D. That's going to be our 4 terabyte, which is, again here, 3,815 gigabytes. And now we'll run all tests and we'll see what kind of numbers we get out of this bad boy. And while those tests are running, let me take a look here in the chat room and see what I'm missing. And why am I not? Pick this keyboard up. There it is. Now I can see the chat room. Oh, those are good numbers. 3424. Yeah, that's a good start. We're looking at the very high end of the performance. Again, 3600 would be the absolute maximum, and I don't even think you could get to 3600. You'd probably get to like 3550. So we're doing really, really good there. Hello to Kat Wynick and Chevy Arthur, Mark Baggett, Robert Grove, Terrell Cockerem, Super Marula, and Michael Cutler, Sharon Idle, Solo. Welcome in, guys. Good to see you. It looks like Mitch Morrison has blessed us with his presence. Hey, Mitch, did you bring presents for everyone? I always like to tease Mitch, especially when he's out of arm's reach and can't squash me like a bug. David Griswold's contributed $5. He says, Carey, I finally get to go back to work tomorrow. You sound happy about that. You need to get out of the house, do you? Yeah. Wow, these are really good numbers. These are really good numbers. Sorry, I want to go back and look at the chat room again. I got distracted by those numbers. My friend Ron says he still has the anti-static wristband that Carey gave me back in 1996, and I still haven't used it. Oh, I'm so proud of you. It brings a tear to my eye. He learned well. That's hilarious. Marty's contributed $10 just a little earlier. I missed it. He says the most I ever spent for shipping a computer was $125. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it costs. I'm not quite certain why this person paid so much. George Z contributed $2, and Kevin Arsenault contributed 20 Canadian dollars, and he says, thanks for what you do. Keep it up. Holy smokes, look at those write speeds. 3,000, almost 3,100 megabytes a second. It's quite respectable. In fact, we're in sort of that Samsung Evo Plus territory. You know, the Samsung Evo Plus 2 terabyte drive is $450 on Amazon right now. Okay, so if this performance is on par with that drive, then two of those drives would be $900, making this drive at $850 a bargain. Isn't it interesting how the perspective starts to change? And what seems expensive now doesn't seem so bad after all, once you're able to really visualize what you're getting for your money here. Those are very impressive numbers. Like I said, I'll wait. There's 2 more tests to go, and I'm sure on my flash drives I've got some results from other drives, and I've got to have a 970 Evo on there, the 970 Evo Plus, which, as far as I'm concerned, is like the fastest NVMe drive you can reasonably buy. I think you can go to like an Intel 700 series, but there's so much money. I've never installed one. I've never had a customer ask for one. I wasn't expecting the numbers to be that good. So this will be interesting. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you to George Z for your contributions. And everybody else, of course. John Brentford is there. I see Ian McLeod and Thomas McKelvey and John Paul Bacon. Hello to Otto Deschat and Donnie Kubitz. Of course, good friend of the channel, John Craig, I mentioned earlier. And a bunch of people who are not yet blue that I hope to soon one day turn blue. There's a good friend of the channel in Vermont, Luke Greenia, joining as usual. Always good to see you, Luke. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you're having a good Memorial Day holiday. Michael Dane, another good friend of the channel here, has contributed $10, and he says, Happy Memorial Day. Hey, Michael, thank you. Happy Memorial Day to you as well. Now, it looks like the tests are completed, and these are our final numbers. So now I'm curious how that compares to what I believe is the fastest, certainly the fastest drive I recommend for customers. Again, it's the Samsung 970 Evo Plus. I've got my flash drive here that should have all of the Crystal Disk Mark results saved from various drives over the years that I've tested, or at least over the last year that I've tested. And let's see what we got in here. There's AdLinks 2 terabyte drive running with those numbers. What if we can put these numbers kind of side by side to compare them? Now the AdLink is quite a bit slower, and everything you're going to see is a maximum 2 terabyte. This is the very first 4 terabyte drive I've ever had my hands on. So you can see the performance numbers are quite significant, especially in that third row, that I forget the name of that test. But the numbers are significantly different on the reads. Now let's take a look. So that's the AdLink S70, which I would recommend as a cheaper alternative to the Samsung 970 Evo Plus if you're looking for, you know, fast storage, but you don't have $450 to spend. So here we've got the 970 Evo Plus 2 terabyte right there. Let's see how this compares. So we're at 3558 on the reads. So the 970 is still a little bit faster here. It's a little slower here. It's significantly slower here. This last, the random 4K, this is interesting results here. I gotta say, this Sabrent drive is really holding its own against what I have considered to be sort of the king of the crop, the best of the best. And I'm kind of speechless. Like I thought it would be good, but I didn't think it would be this good. I mean, is it $850 good? That's the question. I want to remind you that this drive, these numbers here on the left, that's a drive of half the capacity, but more than half the price of the drive on the right. Drive on the right, twice the capacity for, let's say, $850. So you would have to pay, so the basically the MSRP on the Samsung 970 Plus, Evo Plus, 2 terabytes, should be $399.99, should be $400. Right now, it's selling for $450. So it doesn't do us any good to compare what prices used to be, okay? So if we're comparing what the Sabrent drive is selling for today versus and again, I'm just gonna use Amazon as my baseline for prices. The Samsung 970 Evo Plus 2 terabyte drive is $450. To equal one Sabrent drive of 4 terabytes, you'd have to spend $900 on 2 Samsung 970 Evo Pluses. And they would go just a little teeny tiny bit faster on some of the tests and a little bit slower on some of the other tests. So it's not a clear winner. On top of that, the Sabrent drive will cost you $50 less and not take up 2 M.2 slots. That's worth a little extra something to some people. That means you can stick another 2 terabytes, now you can have 6 terabytes, whatever. You can add another 4 terabytes, have 8. So your capacity can be much greater on the built-in storage capabilities of your motherboard by going to a larger capacity NVMe drive. And that may be worth the added expense given those numbers. I just want to look one more time at the flash drive for what other results I've got. So, okay, here's the Corsair MP600, but this is generation 4. So PCIe Gen 4 is a different beast, and you would have to use basically an AMD X570 based motherboard. That's the only thing current. No, I take it back. Intel's latest, what is their latest chipset? The 490, something like that. Intel's latest 10th gen compatible motherboards are now PCIe Gen 4. So basically you have to be running the absolute latest hardware, which means you're going to be spending bucks, right? So those numbers, that's generation 4, and those are pretty typical numbers of current generation 4. But with generation 4, those numbers should be able to get close to 8,000. So the solid state drive manufacturers still have a ways to go before they completely saturate the bus like they've already done with generation 3. So the drive I'm testing today, as a reminder, is generation 3, which most motherboards are. Like if you have an M.2 slot on your motherboard, chances are it's generation 3. And then I should have the other Sabrent drive. Yeah, here's the Sabrent Rocket NVMe. This too is a generation 4 drive. This is the drive I removed. These are the results on the Sabrent 1 terabyte generation 4 NVMe drive. Now, what do these numbers mean in reality? It's really hard to say because how everybody uses their computer is different. I think for many people, they won't see any difference whatsoever because you get to a point of diminishing returns. When something is already so fast, making it a second or two faster isn't very noticeable. Or even making it milliseconds faster in some cases, it's just not that noticeable to a human being. But you might just like to blow the socks off of your friends by showing them benchmarks. But that's not practical, right? I mean, that doesn't really get any work done at the end of the day. And, you know, that's an expensive game to play because then they'll get something and one-up you, and then you got to get something and one-up them. And, you know, I would love to be your salesman. Just say, you know, people like that spending money for the wrong reasons, I'm all for it. I'm looking back through my list here of different benchmark screenshots that I've taken. This is a Western Digital black NVMe drive. Look how pathetic those numbers are. Look how bad that is. That's less than half the speed on the writes and less than a third of the, more than a third of the speeds slower on the writes. Although that was a earlier generation Western Digital black, not the current generation. The newer ones are, I think this was PCIe ×2, which is why those numbers were so low. And it didn't matter if you plugged it in a ×4 slot. It was only going to run at ×2, and that would explain those numbers. I know I was searching for a problem because even when I tested that drive, those numbers were bad. RAID 0, NVMe, Samsung. Okay, here are two Samsung 970 EVOs in a RAID 0. Well, that's not impressive at all. And you'll see the reason this happened is it's maxed out the amount of data that can go through the bus. That's why we've hit this number here. And then we're also increasing latency, and then we're also, requiring a driver, which makes maintenance of the computer much, much harder. If you're trying to, if your system won't boot and you're trying to repair it, you need a rescue disk that has the RAID drivers on it, which you'll have to make yourself. It's not intuitive. It's a very advanced thing, and it's a pain in the butt. Believe me, I know, because I did it with Ready, and I won't do it again. Do I have the Thready? I guess I don't have Threadripper's benchmarks on here. The Intel 660p, which is the QLC drive, again, this one, I don't know if this was a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte drive. The 1 gigabyte up here is the test size. That's not the size of the drive. But you'll see, look at the difference in the numbers. Go right across the top. Bigger numbers are better. So you really do get what you pay for. And again, well, I kind of started this off a bit, making fun of how expensive this drive is, seeing it on par with the 970 EVO Plus, and knowing that two of those to equal 4 terabytes, the size of this one drive, would cost more than this one drive. I've reconsidered my position on that now that I've seen the performance numbers. Who saw that coming? Any questions for me in the chat room? And I'm going to get another Gatorade here. Jim says the 10th generation Comet Lake Intel chips only support Generation 3 NVMe, even though the motherboard, the Socket 1200 boards, do support Generation 4. Now, see, I didn't know that. I assumed if the board supported it, the chip supported it. But thank you for correcting me and making me aware of that. It's not really a problem I've got, but it's certainly one I'll definitely not have to remember. I'll have to remember that. Ron wants to know, do I have any record of the M.2 NVMe drive I put in his computer? That's a good question, Ron. I didn't see it on the list. Was it? No, I think that was the first one. But didn't I put an AdLink S70? Wasn't that yours? I think that came from your system. John Paul Bacon says the new chipset's the Z490. Thank you, John. These numbers are really starting to get convoluted. The longer you stay in business and the more product numbers come out, it's the Samsung 970 and the Intel 10900 on the Z490, not to be confused with the X570 for the 3950X. I mean, what language are we speaking, and how does anybody rattle that off the top of their head? What's wrong with you? Matt says, "What's with RGB everything?" Yeah, you don't want to bring that up, do you? Bordura Catalan joins us. Hey, Bordura, how are you? I got to meet Bordura in Grand Rapids, Michigan when I was there last September. We went out to pizza. Best pizza ever, by the way. Good company, too. What was that pizza place called? I'm so busy remembering numbers and chipsets and CPU and part numbers. I can't even remember the name of this great pizza place, which is amazing. And everybody in Michigan knows it's amazing. Well, not everybody, but there's a consensus. And I can't think of what it's called, and it's bothering me because I'm going back. So I have a theory with RGB, and so a lot of what I do, there's a lot of philosophy involved in what I do, and so this is one of those philosophical moments. You need to have like a little thing come across the screen. Philosophical moments with Carey Holzman. I First of all, let me go full screen so you can see me. There I am. When I was growing up, oh, here we go. There were things that were special. Traveling on an airplane was special. People got dressed up for it. Going out to a restaurant was special. These, because they were special and because they were infrequent, they were more appreciated, as would anything be that's rare. So, growing up without a computer, I finally bought a computer. Most people didn't have computers. And of course, it was cherished because it was the only one. I didn't, I take it back, I knew one other person with a computer. I didn't know, as far as people that were in my circles that went to school with me and whatnot, the people who I met that had computers, I met on bulletin board systems for computer club meetings. That's how I met them. They weren't just people you'd bump into that also had a computer. And so it made it special. Now, things that were sort of rare are common occurrence every day. But going out to eat is no big deal. Everybody does it all the time. Being able to watch a movie on your television set was something kind of special. People were pirating movies. They'd sit in a movie theater with a camcorder and get it on a VHS tape and, hand it to a friend or whatever. And there felt like you were, breaking the law and you were doing something special. Nobody else could be watching this movie still in the theaters on their television at home because I'm just a rebel and look how special I am. Well, you're special, all right. So a lot of things back, 30, 40 years ago were rare. And when they occurred, I can't speak for everybody, but I appreciated them because I didn't have it every day. When computers first came out, they were very unreliable. They would crash all the time. Lots of software incompatibilities. Now we've reached a point, long story short, we've reached a point where the computers are reliable, the computers are fast. They've sort of hit this, what's the word? Hit this pinnacle of frequency that they can't really break 5 gigahertz, So they're just throwing more cores, more cache, trying to trick you into ways of emulating performance, which opens up security problems. But ultimately, at the end of the day, computers are very easy to put together. They're very reliable, and they're very affordable. So how do you make it special? How do you take something that's every day and make it special? If it wasn't every day, and if not everybody had one, it by itself would be special. But now you've got something everybody else has because it's so affordable and it's so reliable, and anybody can easily put one together. How do we make it special? Well, that I believe is where liquid cooling and RGB lighting comes in. It comes in from the folks who just don't feel in order for that thing to be special to them, they have to do something frivolous and unnecessary at an added expense in order to get that feeling that we used to get when it was plain. If you're starving and somebody hands you a plain donut, no frosting, nothing, just a plain donut, it's just bread, you will love that donut. It'll be the best donut, you will remember it. And if 3 months later they go, you can have another one in 3 months, you will look forward to that donut. But if you're eating donuts every single day, you might reach a point where you're like, I want to put some gold flake on this donut. It doesn't add any flavor and it raises the price quite a bit, but look at how pretty it is because you're having donuts every day. You're trying to do something to make it special. Well, here, as a working technician in the real world of corporate America and people running their own businesses, I can tell you businesses don't like to spend money if they don't have to. So they don't want to spend money on things they don't absolutely have to. So things like overclocking and RGB lighting and liquid cooling and cases with clear windows pretty much don't go over in corporate America. They don't want to spend the money on it. They're buying 1,000 boxes at a time and they're replacing them every 3 to 4 years usually. So they're not going to be there very long before they get kicked out and replaced with a newer model. And they don't want to pay a bunch of IT support staff to constantly have to massage these things back into running. So you end up with kind of a generic box that runs moderately fast, probably faster than your employee works anyway. And every couple of years you replace those boxes. And then you get these off-lease machines that I recommend you consider buying if you're on a tight budget rather than trying to build something new at a lower budget. I'd rather see you buy something that was expensive a few years ago than buy something cheap today. But that's my opinion on that. Now, manufacturers love selling the RGB. They love selling the liquid cooling. There's a lot of profit margin in that. In this business, you're lucky to make a 10 or 15% margin over your expenses, your costs. So you got to sell a lot. You're making it up in quantity. So how do you raise your margins? How do you make more money? How can you raise your profit? Well, when you convince the public that adding lighting, and you spend enough money on marketing, you can convince people, people are pretty easy to convince. I mean, and especially if it's a professional marketing company. There's a lot of psychology in what marketing does. But, you can get people to eat Tide Pods pretty easily. You can get people to think injecting themselves. You know where I'm going with this, right? Now imagine if there's I was talking about injecting the bleach. Yeah, don't do that. People are very easily manipulated. And so it takes a certain kind of person of a certain kind of scruples or lack of scruples to exploit that to a level of profit. It doesn't sit well with me. I just can't do it. But clearly I don't represent the normal thinking of a capitalist because, most capitalists will say, I'm not putting a gun to anybody's head. I'm not forcing anybody to buy anything. I'm not forcing them to overpay for it. That's their decision. They are willfully and voluntarily giving me their money. So I'd be stupid to not take it. If somebody puts money on the ground, I'm going to pick it up. I didn't put it there. And they're just going to walk away from it. Why wouldn't I take it? I'm not that guy. I am not that guy. So, for better or for worse, that's how my mama raised me, and I got to deal with it. But I'm not a fan of RGB lighting, and I'm not a fan of liquid cooling, and I'm not a fan of unnecessary nonsense that does nothing for promoting or encouraging or enhancing the reliability and the performance of the computer. It's all just hubcaps on a lawnmower. I think that's going to be my business. Once I can kind of get rid of the whole ethics thing, I'm going to start selling like spinner hubcaps for lawnmowers. We'll have models for Toro and we'll have models for Bridgeford. We'll be an argument. The Toro fanboys will tell you how much better their lawnmower is. Why not? This is the world we live in because we have so much available to us today that we can argue over such petty nonsense that really doesn't matter. I guess that's a good thing, right? We've come a long way. Everything's accessible now, or more accessible than it ever was before. Things are certainly a lot more affordable. I have furniture and fixtures in my house my family would never have been able to afford in the 1980s. And if this were the 1980s, I probably still couldn't afford it. But the manufacturing and distribution, especially with outsourcing and getting cheaper labor from other countries, has provided Americans with a very nice lifestyle and has resulted in some entitlement. So, anyway, that is why I believe RGB is a thing. It's just to make it special. Computers are so commonplace. We've evolved to a point in distribution and manufacturing where everybody has a bar of gold. And now you want to find a way to make your bar of gold special. So you want to wrap it with some Christmas lights. It doesn't add any value to your bar of gold, but it makes your bar of gold feel more special to you. But 30 years ago, you would have been happy just having the bar of gold. Not a good example. I'm sure you'd be happy having a bar of gold today. But there are some of you that would still want to wrap it in Christmas lights. But that being said, it's your own money. And if that's important to you, don't let me get in your way. I don't sell a lot of that to customers. I don't get a lot of demand for it in the real world of a business. But for home users playing at home, I guess it's something to do. And it's a hobby, right? And hobbies are rarely financially sound investments. I got a buddy that flies and races drones. Very expensive hobby. But he enjoys it. So don't let me take that from you. If you enjoy it, don't let anybody take it from you. But suggesting other people should invest their money for stuff that you value, that I kind of have a problem with, because what you value and what I value, at least in this regard, if you value RGB, then you and I have different value systems. There's nothing wrong with yours and there's nothing wrong with mine. And I respect the fact that you want to spend your money and your time configuring and installing that nonsense. And I would appreciate the same respect in return. That I'm the opposite. And we'll all get along and everybody will be happy. And the manufacturers will cash their checks from those who want to give them the extra money. And, maybe they can hire more people and do more jobs, and it's all good for the economy. Donnie says, yep, first world problems, nice to have them. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what it amounts to. So, having that perspective, I guess, so I'm looking at the chat, having the perspective of being there when things were rare and then living today when things are in abundance that used to be rare. I'm sharing with you that perspective. If you're brought up, in the last 20 years, if you were born in the year 2000 and beyond, you don't have that perspective. Everything was already here. And you also don't have that sense of wonder. Like, I wonder today what kids get really excited about with new technology. When movies first introduced audio and they were talkies, people couldn't believe it. The Wizard of Oz, you may not, if you're a younger person, you may not understand that movie, all movies were black and white. And that movie starts in black and white and then it goes into color. And you've never been a color movie before. People had never seen it before. Never seen a color movie in their life. You'll never know what that feels like because when you were born, that was already here. That was your normal. For me, science fiction and special effects were crap, but you just accepted it. That's just the way it was. You didn't have a choice. And then Star Wars came out. Nothing looked or sounded or even had a story like Star Wars that I'd ever experienced in my life. It completely twisted my brain because it introduced new ideas and visuals and audio, things I'd never seen before. Today, it's just you get that on TV in a commercial break, that level of special effects and storytelling. They can do that in the first 2 minutes of the movie up, incredible what they do today. But unfortunately, I think it's going to make it very difficult to impress younger generations because they already have all this stuff here. And I feel bad about that. Like, I wonder, is there going to be some new technology coming out that's going to have an impact on them the way radio did for that generation, or television did the first time they got to see it, on television, or heck, even, cable TV and having a choice of more than 4 channels to watch. How about cartoons that used to only be on, Saturday mornings? You can watch cartoons all day, every day, 24/7. When it was only on Saturday, it made it special. So and now, of course, those cartoons are all racist and politically incorrect, which make them even more special to me. The more racist and politically incorrect they are, the more I enjoy them. The more people tend to do one thing the more I want to do the opposite thing. So when everybody wants to be on their political correct fence and take everything literally, I want to just say, you might be just, it's a cartoon. You know, I don't think there was a hidden agenda in there. It's just ignorance. Didn't know any better. Enjoy it for what it was in the time that it was created. It didn't age very well in many cases. It's still very nostalgic to look back on it, right or wrong. That is how it was, and nothing will change that. Hello, let's see. Bordura's contributed $10. He says, "Good point, Carey. That's what I want to have. He wants to have a special PC, unique and very expensive, and I don't have time to use it, and I don't have it, and I don't have time. I don't need a $10,000 computer." That's very interesting because coming from Bordura, Bordura wants to build a $10,000 computer. And I talked to Bordura about it because we talked about, having me do it when I was in Michigan last year. And I'm like, "But what are you using it for?" So I don't know. I said, "But you're getting all these super high-end components." He goes, "Yep." I go, "Well, that's a lot of money." He goes, "Yep." I said, "That's a lot of work." He goes, "Uh-huh." I go, "For what?" Because I can. Oh, sometimes I get so caught up in the justification, I fail to realize that sometimes people do things simply because they want to do them. There doesn't have to be a logical reason behind everything. There's a story when I have a tattoo, and this person had asked me why I got the tattoo, and I rattled on for 20 minutes about it means this and it stands for that. It also does this and it stands for this and it does. And a guy patiently waits for me to finish explaining all of the meaning behind this tattoo, which has double and triple and quadruple meanings. And he goes, "Did it ever occur to you to just get it because you wanted it?" And my head went, "Oh, I guess it's permanent. It's going to be on your body your whole life. It's not something I take lightly." But yeah, I suppose I. So anyway, that's just the way I am. If I'm doing something, there's got to be a logical reason to go forward to reach a goal beyond it's something to do. And Bordura is building it because he can. And it's really not that important to him. He's clearly not built it yet. I was back in Michigan in September. He's already got parts he says he wants to replace because they're no longer the latest and greatest. Meaning he's got parts brand new in a box. And Bordura, you're in the chat. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's got expensive parts brand new in the box that he's going to sell because they're no longer the latest parts. And when he builds this, he wants all the latest. And he doesn't just want the latest, he wants the best of the latest. So time is not your friend in sort of, as Bordura probably knows by now, in collecting up these parts in anticipation of a build. You wait too long, new parts come out. And the parts you haven't even unboxed yet, you've eaten into your warranty significantly. Ideally, there's no problem with them, and you don't have any DOA parts. But at the same time, once you get everything together, you're not going to be happy because it's not the latest anymore. So if you're going to do it, you might as well go get the latest, right? Bordura says no. Correct me, Bordura. He says I need to sell my 64 gig of RGB RAM so he can replace it with 128 gigs of RGB RAM. Yeah, there was a BIOS update that came out that allowed Intel motherboards used to have a maximum allowable 64 gigs of RAM. And you couldn't really buy any more than that anyway. You'd get the biggest stick of RAM you could buy was 16 gigs. You get four of those. You have four memory sockets, pop, 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 you're 64 gigs. Unless you went, X99, X299. So for socket 1151, the everyday, chips average consumers buy, 64 gigs was the max. Then memory manufacturers started making 32 gig modules. And motherboard manufacturers then updated their BIOSes. Optionally, you could update your BIOS to recognize those 32 gig modules. Now, obviously, if you put four 32 gig modules in your four DIMM sockets, you can do the math on that. I'm pretty sure you're going to get to 128. And that's now the new maximum allowed on the socket 1151 and probably even the socket 1200 boards from Intel. And I think the same is true for AMD's AM4 socket, if I'm not mistaken. David R. Officer says, you don't need 128 gigs of RAM. Well, David, this is what we've been saying. He doesn't need any of it. He doesn't need any of it. He's doing it because he wants to, because he can, not because he needs it. And there's this concept that I consistently overlook, which is every once in a while, it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while I'll run into somebody doing something illogically. I'll say, why are you doing it? It doesn't make any sense. And their answer is, because I want to. Well, I got no argument for that. Like, I can't say you're wrong. Okay, great. Have fun with that. I don't get very many customers calling me up and saying, build me a bunch of computers. Why? I don't know. Why not? Maybe Madi. All right. That's just a joke between me and Madi. Zoe says, nice shirt, Carey. Thank you, Zoe. You have great taste in apparel. Uh, I'm just looking through the chat here to see what I've missed. Photomix Media says, I remember overhead projectors and video projectors that needed to sync with an audio tape back in elementary to junior school. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure, of course. Heck, we had the film projector. You know, they put the film in the. You could hear the film going through the thing, and then if the film got stuck, the bulb was so hot it would melt the film. The film had to keep moving on an old projector. If the film stopped, that bulb got so hot it would melt the film. And then you'd have to splice the film, meaning you'd have to take untangle it, straighten it out, put it on a template, and then it would give you a nice clean cut. And you would use a piece of clear Scotch tape, essentially, and tape the two pieces together. Then you can feed it back into the projector, and you'd have those kind of jumps that were unexpected. And the more you played the film, the more wear it got. So then you'd see lines and dots, just like the intro to today's video. That's all from the past. You know, it's a replication, or it's a simulation of old film. And the more old film aged and the more it was played, the more brittle it became and the more fragile it was. So, yeah, good times. And overhead projectors. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you'd have the AV cart. You'd have to go and get the AV cart and wheel it in if you were the AV nerd for the classroom. Yeah. I don't remember things being timed to a cassette tape, but I do remember the projector. They had audio. And I remember, of course, they moved to VHS tapes, which was a lot easier, but still on a cart. So you'd have a big, 25-inch CRT on a wheeled cart with the VCR below it. And there'd be like, maybe the school had 3 of them. In the classroom, the teacher would have to reserve it for that day. And that was a good day at school when you got to watch a movie all day. Yeah, that beat listening to the teacher, staring at the clock. You could stare at that clock, waiting for the class to end. I swear I could stare at that clock for 10 minutes to watch 1 minute go by. We have an appearance. We have an appearance here. What's going on there, Jimmy? What's going on, buddy? Were you looking for attention? Hmm? What is it, boy? What is it? Is Timmy stuck in the well? What's going on? Is Timmy stuck in the Xbox? I got your face. I got it. Nope. Nope, it's mine. I'm keeping it. It's mine. You want to show me your mean face? Hey. He's not doing it. Sometimes he'll come at you like a shark. Good boy. Now get out of here. Just kidding. You're a good boy. Keep grabbing the wrong mouse, Carey. Ricky says he remembers slideshows with a tape recorder Yes, and that would beep, and then it was time to move to the next slide. Yes, yes, yes. I remember that. Yep, yep. Robin Taha says hello from Uban Rakatani in Thailand. A very hard rain last night. Virus restrictions lifting slowly. Virus effect was comparatively minimum here in the land of smiles. Well, thanks for the update from Thailand. We have viewers all over the world here today. Every time I go live, why don't you give me a shout out? Let me know where you're watching me from. Right now, we've got, oh, let's see how many people are watching. According to this, we have 670 concurrent viewers and only 201 likes. If you enjoy the video and you like this kind of live interaction, be sure and let me know, or let any content creator know, by hitting that thumbs up button. And if you want to be made aware anytime new content is posted, you hit the subscribe button and then click on the bell. The bell. Where's the bell? It's right. Oh, it's gone. Anyway, that turns notifications on. And then maybe someday I'll have such a big channel that I can charge manufacturers for me to showcase their products, and you can put on your ad blocker so you can watch my infomercial for 30 minutes. We all have dreams and aspirations. We've got people watching from California, New York, Missouri, Bahrain, and Scotland, and Cadillac, Michigan, Bulgaria, upstate New York, Minnesota, Virginia, Washington. And let's see, we've got Pennsylvania, California, Madison, Wisconsin, as well as Lewiston, Maine, and Virral in the UK. I don't even know that I'm saying that right. District Heights in Maryland. Bullhead City, Arizona. You go, Bullhead City. Donnie joins us from San Diego, and Dustin's watching us from Algonac, Michigan. Stephen Bernstein joins us from God's Waiting, Florida. And then, of course, Linda joins us from Lexington, North Carolina. My buddy Ron is in Troy, Illinois. He's a poet and didn't know it. Right across the river from the arch, the St. Louis Arch. My buddy Ron lives a stone's throw away from St. Louis, Missouri, there in the southern part of Illinois. I don't know why it's important for me to tell you that, but I was surprised by it. Gerald Wallace joins us from Ohio, as well as, let's see, Robert Halter is in Toronto, Canada. Benjamin joins us near Atlanta, Georgia. And Markey, 22 TVs in Manitoba, Canada. Chris joins us from Pittsburgh. Stuart joins us from Lanarkshire, Scotland. Haven't heard of that one. We've got folks in here from Macedonia and Vancouver, Canada, as well as Rancho Cucamonga, California, Halifax, Canada, Cornell, Georgia, Massachusetts, West Palm Beach, Florida, Newfoundland, Canada, more from Vancouver, Houston, Texas, and Dallas, Texas, also in the house. Welcome in, everybody. Skydiver joins us from North Wales. John Young is in Kansas. Jason Wheeler joins us from Missouri. Darloff joins us from Marble, Arkansas. Marble? That looks an awful lot like Mobile. Oh, but that would be Alabama. See, I'm getting a geography lesson. Jose and Veronica Lopez are watching us from Louisville, Kentucky. Thanks for letting me know where you're watching from. I usually see a lot more Australia. Oh, here we go. Remy watches us from Melbourne, Australia. Chris Chase is joining us from New York State. Andika joins us from Indonesia. Fokat joins us from Sweden. Sharon Idle, of course, in the UK, and Tim is joining us from Perth, Australia. Earl Miller says greetings from Mesa, Arizona. Welcome in, Earl. See, we can go all the way around the world in just a few miles down the street. Philip Jones is watching us from his work. Nice job if you get to watch me and get paid. I hope it pays well. He's in West Yorkshire in the UK. Michael Nuts is in Detroit, Michigan, my home. It's my home. So if you're from Michigan, I automatically like you. 55 Staying Dude says he's still in Oklahoma. Wayne joins us from Rotorua. Wait a minute. Rotorua. Rotoria. He's in New Zealand. And Jeremy joins us from Kentucky. Eric is in Dunn, North Carolina. Gary watches us from Long Island. David wants to know if I use an Amazon Prime credit card. No, I do not use an Amazon Prime credit card. Kurt Keegans joins us from Keller, Texas. Al Perez also in Texas. T. Ferreira is in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. TWC Codster joins us from South Carolina, and Daniel joins us from Rome, New York. And Tim's joining us from Seattle. There's a Seattle viewer here. Wayne joins us from Western South Dakota, but not Southern Western Dakota because that's not a thing. Jerry Sellers is in Tennessee. Alex is in Oklahoma City, and Donnie Kubitz is in the Upper Peninsula. Oh, he says the UP of Michigan is amazing. Want to be someone, says Ferndale or Oak Park. Well, I grew up in Oak Park, Michigan, and Ferndale was a bike ride away. We'd go to hang out in Ferndale all the time. Ferndale is unrecognizable to me today. When I go to Ferndale, it's all yuppie. I guess that's not a thing. It's all gentrified, hipsters. It's like weird because Ferndale's this little teeny tiny, and I guess Royal Oak is the same way. It sort of became, I don't know, hipster. I haven't been to Royal Oak in a long time. The show Home Improvement with Tim Allen, he was supposed to be in Royal Oak, Michigan. That's where that was all supposed to be happening. But yeah, that's my home. That's where I will one day be again. Well, maybe not in those cities. Maybe on the western side, like Grand Rapids area, but still, the Mitten. I've never been to the Upper Peninsula. That's still on the to-do list. Catherine Ann Hauserman joins us. Welcome in, Catherine. I don't know how long you've been there, but I just saw you for the first time. Always good to see you. Solo says M&M is from Detroit. Yes, he doesn't spell it that way. M&M was raised, and the movie is 8 Mile Road. I was raised on 10 Mile Road. Now, you might say there's only 2 miles difference. Yes, north and south, there's 2 miles difference. However, east and west, and by the way, I could have this backwards, I don't know, but he was still quite a ways away off to one side and 2 miles away. So he was in a real bad part of town. But Oak Park is a little place, little tiny place. And Ferndale is even smaller, I think. Ascendant said, Carey has given me a new perception of people from Detroit. Not just Einstein anymore. You know what? I was raised there. That's my home. That's my sense of normal. Right? You pull me out of that and you put me into a different culture, feels weird to me. Doesn't feel like home. So I blame my parents. Was sort of implanted on me as a young child, imprinted on me as a young, that's the word, imprinted on me as a young child as to what normal is. So as an adult, when I go back to Detroit, when I go back to Michigan, there's just a feeling of belonging. I can't explain it. But I will tell you that anybody I've taken with me has also felt it. Like they're like, there is something special about this place. And it's kind of off the radar. A lot of people don't think about Michigan much. If you're not from there, it doesn't really come up much in conversation, let alone a vacation destination. And I'm happy about it because it's not ruined. Go to Hawaii. You enjoy that. I'm going back to Michigan. Michael Danes contributed $10. He goes, Ohio State versus Michigan. Who will win this year? Go Bucks. So there's a rivalry in college football. Ohio versus Michigan. And some people are very, very passionate about college ball. I have to say, I honestly don't care, but I do get a slight amusement from the people who, whether in jest or in seriousness, associate a team with any relationship to themselves as though you have any control over that team. Now, if you're playing on the team, different story. But you know, if the Cardinals football team doesn't do well, it doesn't hurt my feelings. They don't work for me. They don't represent me. And if they're doing well, that's great. But it's not like I got any say in the matter. So these people that take sports like it's their life, I don't get it. But I am a nerd. I know that's news to you, but it's true. Sports ball just isn't like my thing. unless I'm playing it. Now, if I'm playing it, let's play. But to sit there and watch other people do it, eh. Ryan One Full contributed $2 Canadian. It says he has relatives in Sterling Heights, Michigan. Yes, one of my friends that I went to school with, his parents moved and they moved to Sterling Heights, and we used to go to his house because he had an in-ground swimming pool. Now, in Arizona, everybody's got an in-ground swimming pool. But in Michigan, we didn't know anybody. That was like rich people stuff. So it was cool to go over to his house on the 4 days a year that it was nice enough to go in the pool. Honestly, it's funny because in Arizona, you'd say it's too cold to go in the pool, but in Michigan, you'd be like, this is great weather to go in the pool. What are you talking about? Songer says you've never seen the Tim Allen Michigan vacation advertisement? No, I've seen all the Pure Michigan advertisements. And there's some really funny Pure Michigan parody spin-off advertisements, which are hilarious. Ascended contributed £10. He goes, for someone who loves cars, Detroit has a special place in history, respect. Well, thank you. It also has a special place in history for music. A lot of big artists have come from Michigan. A lot of celebrities and actors, whether we're talking about Madonna or Bob Seger. Um, of course, now currently Kid Rock, which I'm not a fan of Kid Rock, but anybody who's successful from Michigan, the whole Motor City and Motown music, all of that was there. Stevie Wonder, all of that started in Michigan. I mean, that was a place to be. The 50s, the 60s, the 70s started to reach sort of a zenith in the 80s and kind of toppled down. And it's kind of toppled down quite a bit since then, but it's slowly getting back. The pandemic hasn't helped things, but there's places you can go in Detroit where you don't even realize it's so beautiful. You don't realize this is Detroit. This doesn't look like what they show me on the TV. No, the TV always wants to show you the worst thing. I can grab my camera, I can drive to South Phoenix, and I'll show you some stuff. And you'll say, holy moly, that's Phoenix? And I'll be like, yeah, technically that's Phoenix. Well, not technically, it is Phoenix. It's just not the part you normally get to see. And it looks identical to some areas that they might show you of Detroit. And I bet you I can go to wherever you live and I can find a part of town that's not ideal for, tourism. But the media, they're kind of fixated on sort of playing down Detroit when there's some very, very beautiful places. And Detroit is just this little tiny dot in a giant mitten of a state. And all of this, with the exception of a couple little dots, Flint is a little, struggling, but it's like having a couple of freckles. It's a beautiful face, beautiful place. So, anyway, don't go there. It's horrible. You don't want to go there. It's a terrible place. Stay out. Don't ruin it for me. Just realized I'm convincing you all to go there. Don't go there. I like that people think it's terrible. Martin says, don't forget about Mitch Ryder. Yeah, and the Detroit Wheels. Yeah. A lot of music from there. Terrell says, Tim Allen voices the Pure Michigan ads. Oh, I did not know that. I just knew the voice was always this very calm and, if you've never seen them, they're all here on YouTube. You can type in Pure Michigan, and they have these this ad campaign that ran for quite a number of years. And this very calm voice explains and it kind of narrates on top of beautiful scenery and people enjoying the outdoors. And then there's a guy who's done parodies of these videos, which are hilarious, but you may not get them unless you've been there. And you'll be like, oh, I see what he did there. Kind of an inside joke. But I didn't realize that was Tim Allen's voice. I've never heard Tim Allen talk so smoothly before. Michael Dane says he met Ed O'Neill when he went to Ohio U. Yeah, Ed O'Neill, Al Bundy. He's a great actor. He's in The Middle now, right? He's a very good actor. I like him a lot. Donnie says Chicago's the same way. I used to live in a place called City Heights. in San Diego, and it's criminally controlled by legit street gang. Yeah, Chicago's definitely the friendliest city I've ever been to. But I'm talking, of course, about sort of the popular downtown areas that tourists go, whether it's Navy Pier or over by the Michigan Avenue. So I know that South Side of Chicago can be a rough place. I've never stepped foot there, so my experience in Chicago is nothing but positive. But again, you can film it either way. You can film this side of it, or you can film that side of it. George Morris has contributed $5. He goes, "Isn't southern western Michigan mistakenly called Wisconsin?" Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. One, that's an excellent question. There is a waterway that separates the two, and I've never been to Wisconsin. I have never been to Wisconsin, though I imagine it's probably very similar to Michigan. It's right next to it. So I'm sure the weather's similar. The people, I think, are very similar. Subaru Mike is from Appleton, Wisconsin. He's very proud of being from Wisconsin. And one of these days, I will go to Wisconsin. My dad had an idea for a road trip that he recommended for me where you fly into Chicago and rent a car and drive up through Wisconsin, go to Green Bay and Milwaukee, of course, and all the way up to the top into the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and then come back down through Michigan and visit whatever cities you want to visit, and then back out the bottom of Michigan, back to Chicago, drop off the rental car, back on the plane, and go home. So that may be a vacation at some point when I have enough time to spend to do that, but you make a big circle. And well, I've certainly been to Chicago a few times, and there's always places in Michigan. It's such a big place. There's so much I haven't seen. And Wisconsin, I've never stepped foot in. So I think, in theory, it should be very similar because of its location. Weren't the Blues Brothers from Detroit? No, I think the Blues Brothers were from Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Michael Dane says Chicago. Yeah. Solo says he used to live in Oak Park, Illinois, and his neighbor down the street was John Mahoney. Is that somebody I should know? John Williams says he lives in Madison, Wisconsin, and he loves it there. You can buy a house on the beach in Wisconsin for like, I don't know, $300,000, maybe less, like a big house. You can't do that out here. Like well, first of all, unless California has a big earthquake and falls in the ocean, we don't have a beach. But any day now, Yuma Beach, any day, that one big quake is coming. Be that as it may, property values are much lower, like in Michigan and Wisconsin, and the cost of living is cheaper there too. Michael Nutt says, "Carey, I want to send you a contribution." You can support the show a number of ways. One is you can use the super chat here in the chat. You can use PayPal, and there's a link in the video notes below the video. Or you can visit the website tech-vets.com and hit the donate button. Or you can contribute an Amazon gift card by logging into Amazon and just sending it to my email address, Carey@careyholzman.com. Make sure you spell that correctly. And all of the information is down below. And, look, I'm just happy to have you here. I'm happy that you're a part of the community. I hope you continue to show up when you can in future videos and just watch this community grow and evolve into like-minded, kind individuals, regardless of where you're from. I don't care if you're from Michigan. I don't care if you're from Iran. I don't care. I just care whether or not you're a jerk, So if you're not a jerk, you're welcome here. In fact, I hope you'll stay and stick around, and I hope I get to turn you blue here very soon. So thank you for the gesture. I appreciate that. John Mahoney played the dad on Frasier. Oh, yeah, I never watched Frasier, but I know who you're talking about. Brian says he always wanted to visit Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Amarillo, Texas. Hoping to do both when I make my trip over the pond next year. Well, Milwaukee should be amazing. I can save you a lot of time and money with Amarillo. I can just kind of throw some fine dirt in your face, some dust, some desert sand, show you some Cadillacs sticking out of the ground, and all you can, a 48 ounce, or what is it, 72-ounce steak challenge at the Big Texan restaurant. You've done it all. What is it, Amarillo? That's a weird place to want to go. Amarillo. Not that it's a bad place. It's mostly a town you drive through on your way to somewhere else. Well, at least it's a town I drive through. Jose and Veronica Lopez says, I can be your blue man. Yeah, sure, why not? Blue. Michael said there's a song called Oceanfront Property in Arizona. Don't think that was a big hit. I don't think that made a big splash on the charts. It sounds like it's probably a parody. Before traveling to Michigan, ask the governor if the roads are fixed. That is part of being in Michigan. Potholes and bad roads. That's a part of being. If it wasn't like that, it wouldn't be the same anymore. I don't want them to fix it. Keep doing it the way they've been doing it. It's part of the charm. It's a term of endearment. Every pothole is like a confirmation that you're home. Jim says he's from close to Amarillo and it's nothing but cotton and tumbleweeds. That is an accurate description. Amarillo is just down the road from Milwaukee. Yeah. Okay. Has anybody ever finished that 72-ounce steak? Yes. When you go into the Big Texan restaurant, there's this deal that you've got to eat. If you can eat the 72-ounce steak with the baked potato, and you can do it in under, I think it's in under an hour. I don't remember. They have a whiteboard of people that have done the challenge and who've completed it. And there's a lot of people on it. Obviously, if you can't complete the meal, you have to pay for it. But if you can, the meal's on the house. And I think you get like a t-shirt or something. But that is the most American, the most Texan thing ever, right? It's I'm going to eat meat until I get meat poisoning because I'm a big fat American, Because it's a terrible stereotype, because it was the Asian guy won the hot dog eating contest for like 3 years in a row, right? In New York, the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. So, not that he wasn't a big fat American. He was a skinny American. Asian American. See, I have to be careful what I say now, because everybody, when are you going to say that? Oh, sorry, I'm not allowed to point out what I'm looking at. See that tree? You see the green tree? Why has the tree got to be green, Carey? It's green. Arborist. Trust Me says it was hot here in Detroit today, 88 degrees. Yeah, I imagine with the humidity, yeah, that would be pretty sticky. Meat sweats, exactly. Yeah. Oceanfront Property. The song is from George Strait. I got to tell you, Michael, um, I'm from Detroit, so I don't think there's a bigger sin in being from Detroit, and don't take this the wrong way, than listening to country music. If you ever go to Detroit and you try to find country music on the radio, there might be one station, and you'll probably be one of a dozen people listening to it at any given time, I imagine. The rock and roll Cars, Motown. There's a lot of pride in Detroit about that stuff. So obviously, living out here in the West, there's a lot more country music played, and yeah, I skip right past those stations. So George Strait. Uh, I've listened to a couple of kind of country rock crossovers. 38 Special, the Eagles. Uh, Eddie Rabbitt had a couple of hits. Juice Newton. Back in the '80s. That's about it. That's about it. Country music and opera are just like anything but those two, please. I will say, just to sort of earn back maybe a little bit of respect from people who love country music, there's a guy by the name of Luke Combs, and he was on Saturday Night Live. And I start hearing the song, and I'm like, sounds like country, but the guitar had a really catchy hook to it. And the song was called, it is a really good song. Um, Let me see. I got to look it up now because it's going to bother me. Luke Combs. The song is called Beer Never Broke My Heart. So not only is it's catchy, it's got a really nice rhythm. This guy doesn't look like the voice that's coming out of him. He's got an amazing voice. It sounds like the traditional American classic country singer. It's a very generic country voice, but it's very, very good. And it's coming out of a very young guy that doesn't look like this older voice can be coming out of him. And he does it with such apparent ease. And the lyrics on the song are fantastic, where he basically says that he's had largemouth bass. He's had largemouth bass bust his line, and a couple of beautiful girls tell him goodbye, and trucks break down, and dogs run off, and politicians lie, and he's been fired by the boss. And it takes one hand to count the things that I can count on. And he says, no, there ain't much, man, that ain't never let me down. Long-necked, ice-cold beer never broke my heart. I just love he lists less than five things, because he does say in the song he can count on one hand how many things have never let him down. And I've jokingly talked about how, of course, everybody jokes about how country songs are always about the dog ran away and the truck broke down. And he acknowledges that in this song. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. The lyrics, the tone of his voice, and the music has got a catchy guitar lick. So I'm going to give a thumbs up and an exception to my country music rule for Beer Never Broke My Heart by Luke Combs. But don't ruin my reputation. Don't tell my friends in Michigan. Oh, crap. If you're from Michigan, that didn't just happen. You were sleeping and you had a dream that Carey Holzman was promoting a country music song. It didn't happen. Now, if you're from everywhere else, though, it's a pretty good song. Check it out. Stewart says country music is massive in Canada. Oh, I didn't see that one coming. Wayne says the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally is in South Dakota, not North Dakota, but both are low humidity most of the time. I must have been part of a conversation I wasn't part of. But it sounds like something I would say. I always confuse North and South Dakota. And Scott Johnston says he's a lifelong Eagles fan and he misses Glenn Fry. Yeah. Marty says he likes the Allman Brothers. Yeah, not a fan. But thank you for the contribution, Marty. Allman Brothers were a big band. A lot of people liked them. And a lot of people call them the Almond Brothers. Use the Jedi mind trick. No, I need one of those Men in Black pens that flash. Dustin says he loves country music. Everybody should enjoy their thing. For me, I like a lot of different kinds of music, and there's a stigma because of how I was raised about liking country music, right? Being from Detroit, there's a stigma. And I suppose if I was raised in Texas, there'd be a stigma perhaps about, liking Black Sabbath or something. I don't know. I appreciate ZZ Top, you know, they're pretty good. Carey, I'm telling Ted. The best thing that come from Michigan was the Corvette and the Motor City Madman Uncle Ted. What about Bozo the Clown and, oh my gosh, what was his name? Oh, I want to get there. I want to get there. What was his name? Sonny. Oh, come on, Carey. I'm looking in the chat. I'm trying to see if I'm going to come up with it before the chat does. Sonny, come on. Isn't the brain weird? It's going to get there. Synapses are firing right now. Soupy sales. Soupy sale. See? You watched this whole Google process happen organically without Google. Take that. Eric. Eric's one of the founders of Google. Soupy sales. That was some good TV. WXYZ in Detroit. The if we're going to talk about music, there's a hip hop. I don't even want to call it hip hop. It's not hip hop. There's a really terrible song on the radio that's just checks every box of catchy tune, bubblegum pop, and it's by a singer. Her name is Dua Lipa, Dualipa, and the name of the song. So you guys are see how weird I am. If you're gonna want to listen to the songs I listen to, if we're gonna talk about that, the song is called "Break My Heart." Break My Heart. And she's got a way of singing like she's playing an instrument, very similar in style to a song called Only Human by the Jonas Brothers. And the first time I heard a Jonas Brothers song I liked, I said, no, we don't like Jonas Brothers songs. I'm like, all right, Cake by the Ocean was a really good song. And then they came out with another one, and it was a really good song. And they came out with um, Only Human. I'm like, every song they're doing is fantastic. I guess they had to break up for 20 years and come back, and now I like them. And I'm okay to admit that now. My name's Carey, and I like the Jonas Brothers. And it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. So the song Only Human, he sings it in this kind of goes with the music. It's very interesting. It'd be very difficult for me to try to karaoke that. And in a similar way, Dua Lipa sings Break My Heart in a very similar fashion. I don't know if this is like a new singing style but anyway, it's very bubblegummy, but I can't get enough of it. I'll just hit replay, drive people in my car crazy. Okay, one more time. Armando Garcia's contributed $5. He says, I love hanging out with y'all. Thanks for all you do, Uncle Carey. Keep up the great work. Hey, Armando, thank you. Sharon Idle says, I love Dua Lipa. So I've heard of Dua Lipa. I have seen Dua Lipa on TV. Never cared for any of her work. I'm like, this is all very simple, basic But this song, finally, there's one that clicks, and I went, wow, that's pretty good. Where is Lyle today? Lyle's around here somewhere. We were just talking the other day. There's a form of singing called turban throat singing. Am I getting it right? And there's a heavy metal band from what country is it? Now I have to Google because my brain's not going to get there. Tervuren throat singing. Is that Tervuren? No, that's a dog. A Tervuren. A Belgian Tervuren is a hairy German Shepherd. That's not what I'm talking about. Um, Tuvan. Oh man, Tuvan throat singing from it's Mongolian. Okay, so here's where I'm hoping the chat room can help me out. First of all, if you've never heard Tuvan throat singing, it's really kind of cool. And I have no idea how they do it. And some people are better at it than others. And there is a heavy metal band that are absolutely amazing from Mongolia, and they're called. They've already had like 1 million YouTube views. They're called the Hue, like human, Hu, the Hue. And there's a song called Wolf Totem. Anyway, they've also got a song called You View View. So anyway, obviously it's foreign for us English speakers, but it's amazing. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I recall sometime in the late 1990s or early 2000s, there was a song that was played on popular radio stations or, with pop music that was a turban throat singing song, but I can't find it for the life of me. I've been searching, I've been using Google and YouTube, and I cannot find the song that was played on the radio that featured turban throat singing on, I think it had to be on the Billboard 100 at some point. Does anybody remember who that was or what the name of that song was? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? It's just you, Carey. And Marty yells out, Leonard Skinnerd. Not exactly, but Freebird, my friend. Thank you for the contribution. Jose and Veronica Lopez with a $2 contribution. Thank you. Greg Guy says, hello from Southern Maryland. Hello, Southern Maryland. Jose and Veronica Lopez says, I love your mentality. You mean you like the way I think or you like how mental I am? Either way, I'm good with it. Mark Spillman says, Wolf Totem is an awesome song. I know, right? In fact, they didn't they do a song for a video game? Didn't they do like, let me Google this. I think they did a song for a movie or a video game. Not a lot of Mongolians in rock music. Their song Black Thunder was featured in the video game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. See, now you think a Star Wars guy like me would know that, but I never played any of the Star Wars games. George, Regalado contributed $20. Thank you, George. Thank you for the contribution. Stealth mode likes Enigma. Well, yeah, well, I was going to talk a little about that. Sometimes instead of taking some medication to relieve the stress of IT, I found music can be very calming and relaxing. So groups like Enya and Enigma, these new age groups that offer a sort of a chill track with a beat, I find that very soothing in the right mood. Nothing I want to necessarily drive to, but if I want to lay down and just relax and put some headphones on so I can hear that separation and the dynamic audio quality of modern music recording. Enigma, of course, is very popular, and Enya, of course, is also very popular. But there's also groups like Brule. Douglas Spotted Eagle has a song called "Closer to Far Away." Is a Native American man with the Native American drums and Native American flute. Very catchy song with Jim Brickman on the piano. I like Jim Brickman as a pianist. I don't generally like solo pianist, but Jim Brickman is an exception to that. Also, music that has sort of it's often referred to as chill. It's going to have a heavy percussion, but it's going to be relaxing. It's kind of a weird thing. I like EDM. I like electronic dance music. If I'm in the mood for it, I like it. I like some top 40. And of course, I hold on to the 80s music with both my hands. I love my Duran Duran and Thompson Twins and Blondie and the Cars and Fleetwood Mac and Jay Giles Band and Greg Kihn Band and Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark and Depeche Mode and AC/DC and all that stuff that made up my teenage years. Carey, what do you think about the Pogues? I don't know anything by the Pogues. I might have heard something. I don't recall. It's not. William Smith says, The Who? They're awesome. I'm surprised so many of you have heard of them, although I shouldn't be. Matt Power wants to know if I'm ever going to do a drunk tech support show again. I will. I'm so busy right now. I just have a lot of computers to ship out and get done. And then I can screw around a little more. Apart from taking a couple hours to just hang out and chit chat with you, kind of stealing away some time here. But to actually plan a drunk tech support show, there's more to it than just going live. Things have to be sort of set in motion for that. And I don't have time right now to do that. But rest assured, that's therapy for me. So even if you didn't like it, I'd still be doing it. But I just don't have the ability to do it as often as I would like. But again, maybe that will keep it special. It never was special. Lorena McKennitt. So Lorena McKennitt had a song called it was just one hit, but that's not throat singing. But that's another Enya style. It was sort of an Irish, well, Enya's Irish, right? Um, and Enya's sister also sings. I can't think of her name. What was the name of Lorena McKennitt's song? When that song came out, I couldn't find it at the record store, and I was DJing weddings and parties. And people were asking me for the song, and I wrote to the record company and I said, I'm a DJ, and people are requesting the song, but I can't find it at the record store. And they mailed me the CD of the song, which was called It's Right Here. No, the song wasn't called It's Right Here. The song was called, it's in here somewhere. It's Celtic, yeah. Somebody in chat's probably already said it. I'm still looking on the screen. The Mummer's Dance. There it is. Mark Spillman's got it. Yeah. Yep. The one song. Jeff Jankowitz says, "Rest in peace, Neil Peart from Rush." Yeah. And Rick Ocasek from the Cars. And Glenn Fry. Well, I was going to get depressing real quick. David Bowie and Tom Petty. Michael says he likes Bad Company. You know, Bad Company had what? Two hit songs. The Sky is Burning and Bad Company by Bad Company. Feel sometimes when I was a DJ that I wouldn't play a whole string of songs. I would play Big Country by Big in a Big Country by in a Big Country, and I would play Bad Company by Bad Company, and then I would play Everybody Wang Chung Tonight by Wang Chung. You know, there's these songs where it's kind of silly where the band's name is in the song. I guess that was one way of getting people to know who the artist was in the days before the internet when they could, where you had Shazam or something where you could look the song up. But that would suck for an artist to have your song played, but the radio station didn't announce at the end of the song who it was. So you'll have listeners going, "Oh, I wish I knew who that was." An artist frustrated that they weren't getting potential record sales because the DJs weren't announcing the artist's name or the title of the song. 10 Canadian dollars comes in from reviewing. It just says reviewing. Thank you for your support. The bass player for Yes. Wasn't a big fan of Yes. Yes was one of those bands that a lot of my friends like, this kind of weird progressive rock that's sort of the Pink Floyd, Yes, Tangerine Dream kind of conceptual art music. And then Yes changed. They changed the band members and they came out with 90125 or whatever the name of the 98210, whatever it was. And of course, it had Owner of a Lonely Heart and Changes, uh, and that was the version of Yes that I liked. That one album, didn't care for the rest. It'd be over my head. Kraftwerk. I think somebody from the founding person of Kraftwerk died recently, didn't he? Kraftwerk, back in the day, was like computer music. My friend Ron in the chat room used to make me listen to it and tell me how good it was. You see all those you hear all those beeps and blops? That's music. I'm like, I don't really. Oh yeah, you're gonna love it because we're gonna keep playing it over and over and over. So I like it now. Thanks for that, Ron. Rain When Full says Rod Stewart is my distant cousin. That's cool. Songer is correcting me on my bad companies. Burning Sky, not The Sky is Burning. And Ron corrected me the other day when I mentioned this. Steely Dan had a song, Crimson Tide, when it's the lyrics Crimson Tide in the song called Deacon Blues. And he wasn't going to let me get away with suggesting in any way, shape, or form that that song was called Crimson Tide. So thank you, friend, for pointing out how often I am wrong, and my memory fails me. But damn it, you should still be impressed. At a moment's notice on an unscripted live broadcast, I was kind of there, you know? I know, he's just giving me a hard time. The Dream Police. That was Cheap Trick, right? King Crimson. King Crimson was before my time. I think that was kind of 60s stuff, wasn't it? Jeff Jankowitz says, blinded me with science. I had interviewed Thomas Dolby, the singer of that song, when I did the radio show. I brought him on, he accepted, and I got to talk to him for an hour. He's a pretty cool guy. Foreigner. Foreigner's one of my favorites. Foreigner and Styx. Supertramp, yeah, they all hold a special place because I listened to a lot of that, especially Foreigner. Foreigner 4 came out, I think it was 1984, and I listened to that cassette tape over and over and over again. Urgent, Jukebox Hero, every song on the cassette tape, even Love on the Telephone, I think was the first song on side B. And you'll be like, what, never heard of it? I'm like, no, you wouldn't, but if you played the cassette over and over, there's a song called 17. Love that song. And Women. So all these songs were on the Foreigner 4 album. And I very rarely listen to albums. I usually only listen to the hits. But with Foreigner, they all were like hits to me. Brass in Pocket. Yeah, that was the Pretenders. Heavy Metal that's a great song by Don Felder. Don Felder is one of the original founding members of the Eagles. He's been on Howard Stern a few times to talk about it. Don Felder taught Tom Petty how to play guitar. Dirty Laundry, great song. Love that song. That's by, is that Don Henley in it? Procol Harum. Yeah, that's this early 70s stuff isn't really my thing. You can keep Captain and Tennille and Gilbert O'Sullivan and Terry Jones. Terry Jacks, Seasons in the Sun. What a depressing. Gilbert O'Sullivan, listen to the lyrics to Alone Again Naturally and then try not to kill yourself. It's horrible. What about Kiss? You know, despite having a song called Detroit Rock City, never really cared for Kiss. The one song, Want to Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day, that's it. I couldn't name another Kiss song to you. Like I know Detroit Rock City is a song, but I don't know how it goes. Not a fan. Tim Elliott says he loves the Electric Light Orchestra. Oh, for sure. Jeff Lynne is a genius. And in fact, Jeff Lynne produced a lot of albums. I think he did some Pink Floyd, and I think he did. Think he did some work with the Beatles, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it might have been individually. But his work behind the scenes is equally impressive as what he's done. And he has a new album. Electric Light Orchestra has a brand new album out. You can look it up on Spotify, and they sound exactly like the album came out in 1986. Like it's the same style. Everything's the same. I didn't find anything that hooked me, but it definitely sounds like Yellow. And I like that they didn't change that, or he didn't change it. It's very strange to hear this 80s sound in a modern album. Beth. Yeah, I know Beth is a Kiss song, but I don't know how it goes. See, I know these titles. Journey, yeah, Journey's a tough one because a lot of their music was ballads, and as a teenager, I really wasn't interested in Open Arms and Faithfully. But they also had some rock songs, Any Way You Want It and Girl Can't Help It, and a few other um, kind of rocking songs. And then when I think of Journey, I think of REO Speedwagon. To me, they're like the same band with these ballads, except REO Speedwagon wasn't quite as rock and roll, Wheel in the Sky, stuff like this. It was all very ballady. And, that wasn't cool to crank up the ballads as a 16-year-old. And then as a DJ doing, weddings and stuff, you had to play that damn song. You had to play Faithfully and Open Arms constantly. Blue Oyster Cult. Blue Oyster Cult does one song I know. No, two. Uh, Burnin' With You and I Need More Cowbell. That one. I can't think of it. Prince, yeah, someone mentions Purple Rain. Prince, what an amazing artist. Absolutely. Terence Trent D'Arby. He had one hit song called Wishing Well. Very catchy little song in the 80s. Bum 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 bum. Does that ring any bells? One hit. Yeah. They're like, never do that again, Carey. What about Chicago? Peter Cetera was a cave if mine. I think he meant he's a favorite of his. So again, Chicago had a lot of ballads, and Peter Cetera has a great voice. However, um, and I will say I've seen Chicago in concert, and it's great to watch, more than four guys, you know, playing a band. You got a whole trumpet section there, you got the trumpet and the trombone and the saxophone, and you've got the guitarist and you got percussion and you got keyboard. There's a lot of people. You think you got to divide that money up, right? If you're a band, if you're Hall and Oates, you pretty much, well, it wasn't just Hall and Oates, but you know what I'm saying? Like you were splitting the money 50-50. If you're Chicago, you've got 15 people in the band, everybody's getting paid less, is all I'm saying. Saturday in the Park was always a catchy song. And does anybody know what time it is? It's one of the most annoying songs I've ever heard in my life. Buy a watch. Um, I understand it's a philosophical question. Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? No, nobody really cares. It was like the Spice Girls. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I used to sing, ask me if I care, if I really, really care. That would have been a catchier song. Just saying. Phil Collins is great along with Genesis. Well, before Phil Collins sang for Genesis, that was Peter Gabriel. I feel I'm having a moment, feeling like the know-it-all energy vampire. Let me bore you to death with these facts that are just off the top of my head and drain the energy slowly from your body. Def Leppard. So I was at the Home Depot the other day, and they have music playing on the. I'm pointing up. They have music playing on the speaker, in the store, and the cashier says, "Oh, this is my jam." And I thought he was kidding because I wasn't really paying attention. I thought they were like playing Muzak or something, and I thought he was being sarcastic. But it was Def Leppard, and I was like, "Are you serious?" Because he was a younger. You wouldn't think he was. You would think he was too young to like Def Leppard. Oh shit, I love Def Leppard. So we're talking about Def Leppard this whole time, and people are waiting. And I'm like, I think you're a bit young to be liking Def Leppard, but good on you. That's great. Um, and the drummer in Def Leppard lost his arm. See, I'm going to do it again. He lost his arm in a car crash, and or car accident, and he had to. Well, he didn't have to. He decided to learn how to play the drums using both of his feet and his one arm to continue playing drums in the band. Nobody's ever done that before. He had to figure it all out on his own. And when they interview him about it, he says, "I think my life was too easy. Everything drumming was very easy for me. So having to learn to play the drums with my 2 feet and my arm was a real challenge." But if you listen to Def Leppard, you cannot tell he's playing the drums with one arm. You cannot tell. I don't even know how anybody can accomplish that level of coordination. Absolutely incredible. Um, Talk about setting your mind to do something. What an incredibly inspirational story. And Def Leppard's not one of those bands that's writing their music from the heart. They'll tell you, we wanted to make every song an anthem. We wanted every song to be catchy. We wanted every song to be a top 10 hit. And we wanted to write it in any way it was going to take to get radio play. And I admire that because I'm a guy who, again, I just want to listen to the hits. I don't want to listen to all the other songs. And so for that reason, they had a lot. It wasn't coincidence that their Pyromania album and what was the other big one they did? Photograph. They had a lot of hits on every album. You know, when a band like Fleetwood Mac, when Tusk came out, they had like 8 of the 10 songs on the album were top 10 hits. It was just by chance. You know, they weren't even getting along. They were recording separately in studios. They didn't even talk to each other. And their music is a lot about what was going on, and it was really good music. But it shows you don't have to go through turmoil necessarily to make good music. The Def Leppard went out with an intention to make catchy, radio play friendly songs that would be anthems, and I think they succeeded quite well at that. Bible Len joins us. He says, I'm on my new computer build, and wow, it is fantastic. So Len is the one whose video I posted. He shared his video build with us. He's in the chat room now. A lot of people were concerned, Len, that your cooler was too big for your case. They wanted to know if you were able to put the side panel back on. Maybe you can give us an update and prove to people. I mean, assuming you put the side panel back on? Hysteria, the name of the album. Yeah, thank you. That's from Evident Savant in the chat room. Queen, yeah, no. Queen is Queen is Queen. You know, they're on a level of all their own. You know, Freddie Mercury specifically, Brian May, Roger Taylor, John Deacon, in that order. I mean, John Deacon, such a genius bass player. The bass line. I remember I was coming back from California, and my parents, you know, I would spend summers with my dad and the school year with my mother. My mother in Phoenix, my dad in San Diego, and you know there was shared custody, right? And I remember coming home from California, and this new song came on called "Another One Bites the Dust," and I remember listening to it and thinking, "Where's the rest of the song?" Like any minute now, other guitars or instruments are going to fill in this empty space. It feels like a skeleton of a song. It feels unfinished. And it really kind of like I didn't like it. I'm like, this is really strange. It starts out really good, but a dun 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 dun, and then I thought, okay, other instruments will start coming in now, right? Never happens. Although it's not true. It does kind of crescendo into a guitar solo. That's pretty epic. But it was so advanced, like my brain didn't know how to process that. It's like, what is this? I've never heard anything like this before. I don't think I like it, but I'm going to listen to it again. And then I'm going to listen to it again. And I still can't decide if I like it. And then eventually I'm like, oh my God, this is a great song. And talk about anthems, right? We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions. They play that at all the sporting events. Bohemian Rhapsody is a uh, is a song the likes of which there are a handful of songs that are um, what's the word? These songs are like 7 or 8 minutes long, and there's just a handful of them, and they're considered by most people who like rock and roll music to be sort of the pinnacle of the best music ever made. So songs like Stairway to Heaven, Bohemian Rhapsody, even if you go back to the very first sort of long song, which was Hey Jude, which went on for like 8 minutes, nobody was ever going to play a song on the radio for 8 minutes. Songs were 3 minutes. Get it at 3 minutes and get it done. Beatles are like, nope, we're going to go na 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 na. We're going to do that for 4 minutes at the end of the song, and you're going to play it. But there's just a handful of those epic songs, and I would even go so far. I know you're going to be shocked. Ozzy Osbourne has a song that I feel fits right in with Stairway to Heaven and Bohemian Rhapsody. Does anybody want to tell me what that song is? It's a great song. I'm asking because I can't think of the name of it. David Griswold mentions the Sugar Hill Gang. Yeah, the Sugar Hill Gang when rap was clean, you know. Come on, what's the name of that Ozzy Osbourne song? Don't make me look it up. It's another one of these songs that starts out slow, it crescendos into a big crash. It's got wails, like whale song in it, and then it kicks back down into where it was before it all started. And it's absolutely incredible. And I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. Len replies that the cover on his build had no problem putting it on with that Cooler Master 212 Black Edition. So, if you have a chance, Len, if you can just kind of film yourself putting that cover on and maybe filming it at an angle where people can see it's clear, because a lot of people thought you weren't going to be able to get that cover back on. People are mentioning Crazy Train. No, it's not Crazy. Crazy Train's not this epic sort of ride of a song. Um, Iron Man. That's Black Sabbath. I realized Ozzy Osbourne was the singer in Black Sabbath, but No More Tears. Gary's got it. No More Tears by Ozzy Osbourne. There are three songs that run about 8 minutes long that tell this emotional story where it starts soft and then it's kind of it's hard rock and it gets soft again. In Ozzy's case, it's the opposite. It kind of starts hard rock, gets soft, and it gets hard again. But so Stairway to Heaven, Bohemian Rhapsody, and No More Tears. I would put those up as epic storytelling songs that are musically genius. Rafael Perez mentions Gary Newman. I remember watching Gary Newman in the 1970s on Saturday Night Live sing that song Cars, and I had to have that song. I had to go buy the record. Can't stand that song. It's terrible. But back in the 1970s and watching it on Saturday Night Live, loved it. It was very Devo sounding. Rain When Full said, "Hey, I said that. I guess I didn't see it. Sorry if sometimes the chat moves faster than I can see it." The Ohio players. What did the Ohio players sing? Oh, they sang something I listened to because I know the name. I can't think of the song. I'm gonna Google it because I can't even. I can feel when I'm gonna remember something, and I'm not feeling that. I know the I know the band. There was one or two hit songs, maybe three. What were they? They had a lot of hits, but I didn't like most of them. Um, Love Roller Coaster, which of course I think Beavis and Butthead had a big thing on. Not my favorite song. What was the good one that I liked from them? What was it called? Was it Fire? I think it's Fire. I'd have to hear it. It sounds right though. Everybody in the chat saying Fire. I just see that. Okay, it's Fire. That's a great song. I can't remember how it goes. I just can't find it in my head, and I can't play it right now because of copyright violation. But I know I like it. Raphael's mentioning, 80s music I'm always on board with. Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes. A Flock of Seagulls that Graham H. is mentioning there, of course. We used to call them Flock of Haircuts. Do I like Pink Floyd? Generally, not really. It's just too mellow and boring. But I've always liked We don't need no education. I always like the Wall part too. That is really the only Pink Floyd song I have on a playlist. If the radio is playing a Pink Floyd song, I know them all. Like I know the words, I know them. They're so boring. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah, Earth, Wind, and Fire. There's a song they sing called September I really like a lot, but they have a couple other hits as well that I enjoy. But September is my favorite one that they do. Billy Thorpe, Children of the Sun. Yeah, that's one of those. I would put Children of the Sun right up there with. Okay, now I remember the one I'm missing. Stairway to Heaven, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, No More Tears by Ozzy Osbourne, Children of the Sun by Billy Thorpe, and in that same vein, Come Sail Away by Styx. And Styx's lyrics traditionally are just nonsense. They're terrible lyrics. With that exception, um, Come Sail Away, paired together with Children of the Sun, are these very similar epic style songs, again, 7 minutes long, storytelling with, highs and lows in the music, where it gets kind of, what's the word? It gets kind of manic and then it calms and it gets really mellow and then it gets manic again. I don't know. There's something about that I enjoy. It reminds me of classic orchestral music, like from Beethoven and Bach, or the 1812 orchestra, or Blue Danube. Blue Danube starts off very soft and it escalates and it gets loud and it's soft again. This rock music I'm mentioning is very reminiscent of classic orchestral music, which I've never seen an orchestra play live, but I can't even imagine watching the 1812 orchestra uh, overture played live with real cannons firing. The closest I got to that was Thunderstruck, I think. No, it was AC/DC, and the song was For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, and they put up fake cannons that they would fire. But I suspect a real orchestra would use real cannons, and they would be far louder than what AC/DC used. The power of a human orchestra, just people playing their wind instruments and hitting the drums and playing violins, string instruments, without anything plugged in. You've got 80 or whatever number of people up on that stage, all in concert with each other. Um, Boy, that's, living in a digital world, going back to that sort of organic music creation. That's got to be something I need to put on my to-do list. Go see the Boston Pops or something at some point in my life. How about Meatloaf? Never really was a fan. What the guy had like two hits, right? He had the one where he's, "Will you love me?" Blah blah blah. It's kind of a conversation, and then what was the other one? Hey, yeah, not really a big fan of Meatloaf. He was a guy that he had a very strong following. People that really like Meatloaf, man. Yeah, Meatloaf and to me like Eddie Money, those two guys. He died recently too, I think. Eddie Money. Um, just didn't care for the style. Heaven 17. Wow, wow. Can't even think of the one song they had. I'm usually really good at the one hit wonders. I pride myself on, knowing Dexy's Midnight Runners and Taco. Come on, you got to listen to some Taco to go with your meatloaf. David Griswold mentions Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. That's the other one, the guys at Radio Shack. My friend Ron Hillier, oh, those guys, they would listen to this conceptual progressive rock, and Emerson, Lake, and Palmer is one I always forget. Every song is like the whole side of the album is one song. kind of music. Not my thing. I think it requires a longer attention span. I don't know. I just can't get into that. Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Thank you. I couldn't think of the name of the song. Yeah, and he sang another. Meatloaf sang another one, but Paradise by the Dashboard Light was just it's just annoying. There's a couple of songs that I recently rediscovered that I've forgotten. I want to say Robbie Neville called C'est la vie was a big hit in the 80s, and then the radio stations don't play it anymore. And I want to say Richard Marx. Was it Richard Marx? Okay. Called it Don't Mean Nothing was the name of the song. So it don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing was a hit song, and I want to say Richard Marx and Robbie Neville, C'est la vie, and Love and Rockets. These are songs like I don't know why the radio stations don't like the '80s stations. They don't play these at all. I never hear them. Love and Rockets had a one-hit wonder. They were that was So Alive. Yeah. Split Ends. I've got the Split Ends album, and it's got all these little weird designs on the album. If you hold it to the light and you tilt it, you can see all these weird geometric shapes engraved somehow into the pattern on the groove of the record. And the song, their one hit was I Got You, which for some reason, it's like not on places. I'm having a hard time. There's a couple of one hit wonders that are not on Spotify. And I'm like, really? You're holding out? Like Don Felder's Heavy Metal, not on Spotify. Creo, Kreo, has a song called Burn for You, not on Spotify. Really? You're holding out on Spotify? You're too good for them? They don't pay you enough for your one hit? And what's the other one? There were three that I thought were really bizarre. I understand if there's a big artist like the Beatles and they don't want to be on Spotify, but I don't get why some one hit wonder wouldn't be on there. Like you would think they'll take whatever they can get. They'd want their music to be out. It bothers me when artists, in my opinion, are holding out for the money instead of making the music for the sake of making the music. But there's a third one I was trying to find. But I was really thrown by Creo's Burn For You. I thought for sure Burn For You would be on there. Do I like CCR? I really don't like Clearance Streetwater Revival. In the right context, I kind of feel like if you're playing a Vietnam era Call of Duty game and they got some CCR playing or some John Fogerty playing, it kind of fits the mood. But outside of that, I don't listen to them. I don't care for it at all. But there's a YouTube video of John Fogerty, and he's playing guitar against the guy from ZZ Top, Dusty, not Dusty. Uh, anyway, the other bearded guy, Frank, and they John Fogerty's guitar playing and singing sounds exactly as the recorded version the radio plays. There's not a lot of studio correction, and I respect that a lot. Versus ZZ Top doesn't quite sound so good, you know. And the Cars back when they were playing, they sounded horrible live, horrible. There's so much studio correction. So anyway, I think real talent is if there's no studio correction needed. And if you play that YouTube video here on YouTube, John Fogerty versus I don't know, put ZZ Top in, and he just kind of do this riff of their hits. Uh, it's very impressive how good he sounds live. But I'm not a fan. But I recognize the talent. Billy Gibbons. Yeah, it might have been Billy Gibbons. I can't tell them apart. Thank you for. I couldn't think of his name. Yoko Ono. Yeah, not a fan. Baltimora sang a song called Tarzan Boy. I'm surprised anybody here knows that. People recognize it usually from a Listerine commercial that aired many years ago, but what a great song. I used to love that song. One hit wonder. You've got a group like, Aha that sings Take on Me, and I think they're from Norway, and they've been a band for like 30, 40 years. They've had a number of hits in Europe. Just had that one hit here. Well, they had a song called Cry Wolf that kind of made it on the dance tracks, but most people never heard of it here in the States. Run DMC, yeah, yeah. Run DMC always reminded me of the Beastie Boys, or vice versa. It was three guys yelling in a microphone. So I wasn't a real big fan. If I had my choice, I'll take Run DMC over the Beastie Boys. How the Beastie Boys got radio play is beyond my ability to understand. It just seems like a bunch of talentless hacks yelling off key into a microphone. That said, there's a documentary they just came out with. I think it's on Netflix about the Beastie Boys, talking about some of the reasons why they did what they did. And I don't like it. Still don't like it. But it's interesting. The Righteous Brothers. Yeah, that's before my time. ABBA. Yeah, the 70s disco stuff. As a little kid, they used to sing well, they sang a song called Take a Chance. And I used to listen to that over and over again. I Want Candy by Bow Wow Wow. That was an interesting one because the female singer, she was from an island, and she was 16 years old singing a song with a lot of sexual innuendo in her shaved head. And there was a lot of in the 80s of to do about whether or not this child should be singing those lyrics and traveling in a band when she should be in school. It was a big, I don't know the word, controversy during those MTV days where they were sexualizing a 16-year-old. The Knack, My Sharona, that's that's a great song. I couldn't name anything else the Knack sings, but My Sharona is a great song. Everything about it is great. I don't even know what a Sharona is, but apparently he's got one and he's singing a lot about it. I think a Sharona is like a Susudio. Well, a lot of people know the very first video MTV played was the Buggles' video Killed the Radio Star. A lot of people don't know the second video ever played, and another one of my favorite, the female rock. When a woman can get up there and wail on the guitar and wail out those lyrics. Uh, I don't know. It was sort of special in the 80s. There weren't very many women doing it. Joan Jett wasn't exactly a vocal hero. But along came Pat Benatar. And I believe the second song MTV played was a Pat Benatar song. And I would put Pat Benatar in Heart as two of my favorite sort of rockin' ladies. Talent to no end. Heart even more so because of the musical, Pat Benatar doesn't play any instruments as far as I know. She just sings. And then Ann and Nancy Wilson, one I think sings and the other, I think Nancy plays guitar. What an amazing and inspirational, the Go-Go's, there was this sort of all-girl bands like the Bangles and the Go-Go's. And the Go-Go's they were, they were playing songs that were intended for radio play, to hit on the charts. And many of the members of the band, like Jane Wyland, there's a punk rock girl. She didn't want to make trending music. She kind of went for the check. And of course Belinda Carlisle. But in the 80s, that was kind of a big deal for to have an all-girl group. Um, so yeah, and there was another group. What were they called? They didn't get the radio play of the Bangles or the Go-Go's, but this is going to bother me if I don't look it up. The Elastica, I think the group was called Elastica, and the song was like, I think it was called Connection, and I think it was an all-girl band, and it was a great song. Hold on, let me check my memory. Error. Spot on. Take that, Google. The name of the group is called Elastica, and the name of the song is called Connection. And I think it was an all-girl group. A very catchy song, and if you were around in the 80s, it may not be a song title you remember or a group you remember, but I think when you hear the song, you'll remember it. A lot of people talk about the singer, and I didn't know her name, but apparently she's a pretty well-known singer. But she was the lead singer of a group called Till Tuesday, with a song called Voices Carey. And apparently she has her own following. She's that good of a singer. I didn't. I just picked that song from Till Tuesday, and I can't think of what her name is now. My friend Ron says Pat Benatar was trained for opera and gave it up for rock. I recall something about that. Yeah. And her husband is the lead guitarist, Neil Girardo. She calls him Spider. They've been married this whole time, and they have a daughter. And Neil is the guitar player in Jesse's Girl for Rick Springfield. He was in the studio recording that lead guitar for Rick Springfield. He's an amazing guitarist, doesn't get the credit he deserves. Judas Priest, I never got into. There's one song I know by Judas Priest. You got another thing coming. That's it. I could say the same about, my homeboy from Michigan, Ted Nugent. I can't tell you one song that boy sings except he sings Cat Scratch Fever. That's all I know. The guy's a little off his rocker, but he's from Michigan, so it makes it okay. Dokken? No, I never listened to Dokken. That was too heavy for me. Amy Mann, yeah, Amy Mann, thank you, was the lead singer. That's the Brain 49. What an appropriate name. The lead singer for Till Tuesday. I was filming at Newegg, and these guys were talking about Amy Mann, and I'm like, who the hell are you talking about? They're like, you don't know who Amy Mann is? She's amazing. I'm like, what are you kids listening to? Like, she was in a band called Till Tuesday in the 1980s. You should know this. And I'm like, oh, I love Till Tuesday. I didn't know she had a whole separate solo career. No idea. Raphael mentions Laura Branigan. Yeah. Was that Gloria? Breaking the Law. I wouldn't even know that if it wasn't Beavis and Butthead. Honestly, never heard it on the radio. Benjamin's listing a bunch of Ted Nugent songs, none of which I know except Cat Scratch Fever. UB40, yeah, I'm not really a fan of UB40. A little too reggae-ish. Oingo Boingo, sure. Oingo Boingo. Danny Elfman. Who would have thought this red-haired, freaky-looking dude singing "Dead Man's Party" and "Who Do You Want to Be Today" and "Weird Science" would become this lead music writer in Hollywood? Like, he does all of the music for Tim Burton's movies. The Simpsons theme is Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman's the lead singer of Oingo Boingo. Who knew that weird, freaky guy was so freaking talented? Oh my gosh. Plus, The Simpsons, they often change the tune up at the end of the song, or at the end of the episode to match whatever the theme of the episode was. They can make it jazzy or spooky. Danny Elfman reorchestrates or reimagines those songs in that way. And he's done so much for Hollywood in so many Hollywood movies. And he's like Tim Burton's go-to guy for every Tim Burton movie. It's Danny Elfman. And to think it's the same guy. Because if you look at interviews of Danny Elfman in the 1980s, and then look at interviews of Danny Elfman in recent years, he's a different guy. Like he was kind of a loose cannon in the 80s, and today's a very refined and well-spoken man, sort of polished by Hollywood and money. Whoever saw that coming? That's crazy. Dire Straits, yeah, Dire Straits, great band. I love the song Industrial Disease. It's catchy, the lyrics are smart, and I think they hold true today as much as when they wrote the song. Obviously, Money for Nothing, Sultans of Swing, all great song. Mark Knopfler looks exactly like Vladimir Putin. I'm not exactly sure if they're the same guy, but I think Putin may be the lead singer for Dire Straits. There's a video here on YouTube where Mark Knopfler has Phil Collins playing the drums for him, Eric Clapton playing the guitar for him. It's like this. They're doing. He's the lead singer. Like they're second to him. There's another one I'm missing. Another very famous and well respected musician on the stage. It's here on YouTube. If you've not seen the video, check it out. It's very cool. Yeah, Walk of Life, another great Dire Straits song. Who's my favorite guitarist? That's a tough question because I don't really like. There are songs where I think the guitar work is exceptional. I got to go with Brian May. I think Brian May is probably the single best guitarist in my book. I don't really go with the flow with Eric Clapton because he's not an interesting guy to way. He has no stage presence. He's like a nerdy guitarist. So well, what he's doing is technically good. It's not particularly interesting to watch. I think Brian May's more fascinating. The fact that he built his own guitar out of spare wood laying around his house. The fact he plays with a sixpence coin instead of a guitar pick. Um, the fact that he built the guitar he plays and still plays that guitar today, on top of all of the unique guitar playing and all of those Queen songs, I think it's got to be Brian May. In my book, Brian May. That's my final answer. Yeah, yeah. Though I do have to sort of say that that guitar solo in My Sharona is impeccable. And watching Angus Young and AC/DC hammer on the neck of the guitar to see that live was incredible. Um, but I think just for sheer ingenuity and passion, you can't beat making your own guitar and playing it with a coin. Like this dude won't use a guitar pick. They have to buy sixpence coins and stick them in the microphone stand when he drops them and stuff. That's all he plays with is a freaking coin. Who does that? Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Janis Joplin. None of those. No, I'm not. I'm not. Those aren't not my jam. Santana. I never really got the like the until he did the song with Rob Thomas. Smooth. I never understood what the appeal was of these guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Steve Vai, or Santana. I never got it. Sorry, I just never got it. But I did like Smooth. The Ramones. How about Dramarama? There's nothing like playing I Want to Be Sedated right next to anything by Dramarama. Those two seem to go together really well. Top 40 Carey Kasem. Sharon Idle says she used to live across the river from Sting. I said hello to him once. He seems like a very interesting guy. But I'll tell you the guy who seems more interesting in that band is Stuart Copeland. You want to talk about a percussion, someone who's got passion for percussion. What a drum kit. And that guy's got like a 100-piece drum kit. I mean, I thought Mick Fleetwood or Phil Collins was a great drummer. Watch Stuart Copeland live. Benjamin says, watch Stevie Ray Vaughan's warm up. It's better than most guitarists' actual show. If I can't, if I'm not familiar with the song that he's playing, it's kind of hard for me to get on board. Like I don't know where it's going. So I don't honestly think I would enjoy it. Yeah, Joe Cocker, I think, was from Detroit. Not a fan, but talented guy, just not a fan. What's Sting's name? Gordon Gordon Sumner, and then the other guy in the Police was Andy Summers. So you had Sumner and Summers in the same band. Well, I suppose that's true. Duran Duran, John Taylor and Roger Taylor, but they weren't related. Neil Peart of Rush. I was never a fan of Rush. They had the big songs, Tom Sawyer, Limelight, and I'll play them from time to time. And I'm not a big Rush fan. The Holy Trinity thing. I had a bunch of friends that were into Rush, and They Might Be Giants and 10,000 Maniacs and this kind of stuff, and it was never really my thing. Listening to Triangle Man, not by Rush. Just so we're not getting confused. Prayers for Brian May. Oh yeah, he just had a heart attack. He nearly died. I think he's all right now, though, isn't he? Donna Summer. Donna Summer has a song. Speaking of Detroit, Donna Summer from Detroit has a song that is very Daft Punk sounding. And it was called oh, come on. Was it called I'm in Love? It's just this electronic over and over and over again. That was the whole song. And boy, you put headphones on and crank that up. It sounds good today. I don't care who you are. What's the name of the song? I'm in Love, I think. Donna Summer. Is it called I'm in Love? That's all she says in the song 8 million times. I Feel Love. Sorry. Donna Summer, I Feel Love. That was when did that come out? 1977? And I'm telling you, Daft Punk could come out with that exact song today, and people would say, well, that sounds very modern. Sounds fresh. Nothing sounded like that in 1977. In fact, nothing sounded like that again until, I don't know, 30 years later, sort of when electronic music like that started becoming more normal. That was a very different sound in 1977. Herbie Hancock, sure, sure. Nothing like watching Herbie Hancock in Valerian, the movie Valerian. Herbie Hancock is in that. Oh, the Scorpions, sure. Rock You Like a Hurricane. One of my favorite songs from the Scorpions is a slow song. Oh, you guys really racking my brain today. What's happening is I'm playing the song in my head and I'm trying to get to the chorus so I can think of the name of the damn song. Now I'm going to Google it because I don't have all day anymore. So the Scorpions had Wind of Change. That's one of my favorite Wouldn't have changed. Of course, Rock You Like a Hurricane. They had one other one. What was the other big hit they had? Oh, The Zoo. I really liked The Zoo. And I think No One Like You was another song they did. Um, and for some reason, another one hit 1980s, one hit wonder comes to mind. For no apparent reason, going back to that electronic sound, Der Kommissar, but not by Falco. Because, Falco did Rock Me Amadeus. And they had a song, a real popular dance song was played in the clubs called, was it Vienna? Anyway, there's a group called After the Fire, and they did the version of Der Kommissar that I love the most. And for some reason, maybe because they're both German, I enjoy playing that back to back with Peter Schilling's um, um, Coming Home. Is it called Coming Home? And line that up with 99 Red Balloons. And I want the English, I don't want the German versions. I want the English versions. Yeah. Those songs just seem like they should all be played together in my twisted mind. And if you want to throw Rock Me Amadeus on the end of it, just to seal it. Vienna Calling. That was a song that Mark Spillman's on it. I'm going to make Mark Spillman a moderator because he's been given a lot of answers today that are impressing me. You are on the ball, Mark Spillman. I used to have the 12-inch single of Vienna Calling, and I would crank that up, and I had these big uh, PEAVEY, the name of the speaker manufacturer. They make big concert speakers. They were PVSP 15s. They're a big 15-inch subwoofer, a big horn tweeter. Man, I used to piss the neighbors off. But the drum line in that, ooh, smack you right in the face. I don't like it. Like a friend of mine was showing me a stereo the other day, and it rumbles. I don't like that. It's just. I'm like, that's terrible. I want to hear music where the bass just comes out of nowhere and smacks you in the face and goes away. You'll be sitting there and you're listening, you're like, yeah, it's a pretty good song, and then thump, and it's crisp and it's clean. And listening to a song like December by Collective Soul, where it hits that bass line from out of nowhere, you don't even realize how loud it is until that boom hits. And it's got to be loud. It'll move the hair on my head. That's the best. It's the best thing in the world. When you have a song, Money for Nothing does that with Dire Straits. You get that, crank that guitar solo up right in the very beginning of the song. Once you get past the, I Want My MTV repeating for far too long, which is, of course, Sting singing essentially Don't Stand So Close to Me. Instead, he's saying, I want my MTV. It's the same rhythm, it's the same guy. I don't know how many of you realize that, maybe everybody but me, but that's Sting in the very beginning of Money for Nothing singing, I want my MTV in the same style of Don't Stand So Close to Me. And then the guitar solo starts up, and that's where the volume goes up. That's where the bass gets turned up. And people are like, why are you turning up the bass on the guitar? Hold on. And then the drums kick in. And it just, every time the drum hits, it smacks and it goes away. It doesn't just rumble. Hate the rumble. Don't like it. It's just muddy and indiscernible and noise. But a nice, crisp, smacky on the face percussion or bass, that's a good stereo. Listening to you saw someone mentioning Space Oddity, obviously David Bowie, genius. But Let's Dance, it's such a classic 80s track. MTV played that video. I can still see that video in my head. They played it so much. But again, listen to it with headphones on and listen to the dynamic range in that song. It's very well recorded. And that laid back style that David Bowie had of singing, it was just like, I'm going to kind of move my mouth a little bit when I talk. It was very slow, very I don't even know how you come up with that. Because you get up on stage, at least I get up on stage, you feel an energy and an excitement. So to contain that and just be mellow and laid back and just kind of barely move your mouth when you talk. It's such a unique singing style that Bowie had. And what a voice. Twisted Sister. Yeah, not a big fan. Dee Snider, Um, but it was played a lot on MTV back in the day. Jose and Veronica Lopez contributed $2 and says, "Well appreciated. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. We're just chit chatting here. I'm sure that poor William over at Sabrent's like, what has this got to do with the title of the video? It's going to get edited down, William. We're going to edit all this out. Don't worry. How am I going to show this to my boss? Hey, there's this guy with a 3 hour and 15-minute review. What's he doing with it for 3 hours? He's not. No, he's talking about music. I don't know what's going on." Benjamin says David Bowie recorded 2 full CDs of songs with Stevie Ray Vaughan, by the way. All right, Benjamin, I will give you moderator status. I believe that's probably true, but I still don't care about Stevie Ray Vaughan. Jeff says it's nostalgia night at Carey's place. Welcome into moderator status. Mike Yazzie mentions Berlin. I really enjoyed Berlin. Terry Bozzio, and I think it was her brother. They had again. These are big MTV video type songs, and they always reminded me of Missing Persons. Whenever I hear Berlin, I think of Missing Persons. They were both sort of these blonde, high pitched singers, and I will always confuse them when I hear them. And it was so different for Berlin to come out with the song for um, oh jeez, Tom Cruise's Maverick. Come on, Top Gun. When she sang, this is gonna be horrible. I can't think of the song. Very slow ballad for that. And it was unlike any Berlin song. You're like, that can't be Berlin. That was Berlin. Berlin's music in the '80s, very pop, electronic, very much love that music. And again, Berlin and Missing Persons, to me, you can play them side by side. I have a difficult time telling them apart. Elvis Costello, never was a fan. Mm-mm. Never really got into Elvis Costello. Benjamin's like, yeah, you're allowed to dislike him. William says, "You've taught me so much. I love your videos. Keep up the great work." I don't know that I'm really teaching anything today, William, but we're just hanging out and chatting. I'm glad you're joining us. Leaf Belly says, "Destination Unknown was great." Rick Ash mentions Mr. Mister. The thing about Mr. Mister is they very much sound like a band like Toto. I think even that was mentioned when Mitch was here. They should listen to Mr. Mister has a new album out, and it's just it sounds very. mm, It's just real mellow, I guess. And the song "Is It Love" is anything but mellow. It's a very catchy tune. And it occurs to me after listening to more from Mr. Mister, they never made another song like that. Like that's just kind of a weird song they made, which for some reason reminds me of Scritti Politi's Perfect Way. I don't know why, but Mr. Mister's "Is It Love" and Scritti Politi's Perfect Way seem to really pair together well. So when I DJ'd, I just had this feeling, I don't know how to explain it, where I would feel like this song should come after or before this song. And I couldn't explain it, it just felt right. And that was one of those kind of things where if I felt like I played Mr. Mister, I felt like I could play Scritti Politti and it would fit well together. But nothing else from Scritti Politti and nothing else from Mr. Mister. Just those two songs. Brian Burns is putting the lyrics into "Melt with You" by "We'll Stop the World and Melt with You." Who sang that? Oh, you know this, Carey. It's a one-hit wonder again. It's overplayed. And "Take My Breath Away" was a song by Berlin in the movie Top Gun. Thank you for that. That's from Rex 5159. Jeep and Jack says Kenny Loggins was the '80s movie songman. Yeah, he did Caddyshack and Footloose, Top Gun. Yeah, yeah. Winnie the Pooh. Ledman says, I want a Vegemite sandwich. Obviously, being tested here. Men it works down under. What was the lead singer's name? Colin. Come on, Carey. Oh, I was so close to impressing you. Modern English is melt with you. Yes. Brian Burns. There's a couple of bands that, for whatever reason, they had these one-hit wonders, and I can't remember them. Like Blast Tiger. What did they sing? Modern English. Um, and yet I pride myself on knowing the one-hit wonders, but I just wasn't fans of those songs. Melt with You was just played too much. Like if Love and Rockets So Alive was played that often, I'd probably be sick of it. And then I complained because I never hear it on the radio. So I add it to my Spotify list. Then when I try and add a one-hit wonder that Spotify doesn't have, of course Spotify will play it if you have it downloaded, but only on the device you have it downloaded on. And that sucks because if I want to listen to heavy metal by Don Felder, I got to pretty much play it off the old school USB flash drive. And same with, again, Burn For You by Creo. These are two very different songs. You guys would be like, this guy's music taste is weird. It is. I like to think it's pretty varied, with the exception of country and opera, which we already covered. The Tubes. So the Tubes were from Phoenix. The song She's a Beauty. Great song, again, to listen to with headphones on. Great dynamic range in that song. I love the way they recorded it. Bad English, I never was really a fan. Billy Joel, he's a talented guy, but he's just really overplayed. Corey Hart, again, Sunglasses at Night is like his one hit. His name is similar to mine, so I like him. I like his name, but they overplay the damn song. Glass Tiger, I'm being told, played Don't Forget Me When You're Gone. See, I've completely forgotten them. Toto's Hold the Line. Well, that's a good example of the Mr. similarity with Toto. Most of Toto's music is all pretty mellow, and then you have this rock and roll song, this really rock and roll, Hold the Line. Fantastic song. I feel like Hold the Line should be played with Cold as Ice. Those two songs just really pair well together, and then maybe top it off with Point of No Return by Kansas. Just this heavy keyboards, very heavy, rapid fire rock and roll keyboards. And nothing else Toto did was ever that heavy. It was sort of like electric like orchestra. All their music sounded pretty electronic except for one song, which doesn't sound like an ELO song at all. And I think you know what I'm talking about. Do you? Do you know which ELO song doesn't sound like any other ELOs? And it was a big, big hit for them. And it was pretty raw. It was just mostly just electric guitar and drum. It wasn't a lot of electronics in it. It's called Do Ya, and a big, big hit. And Do Ya by ELO um, doesn't sound like an ELO song. And it's the only one I know by ELO that's different. Kaja Gugu. So, again, this is why I can't remember stuff, because I have all this weird trivia in my head. The name of the lead singer in Kaja Gugu, I think his last name is Hamill. And he did the theme song for Never Ending Story. And for his name, he rearranged the letters in Hamill to spell Lamal. So Lamal is the lead singer, or the name of the group or the artist for the Never Ending Story song called Never Ending Story from the movie Never Ending Story, who's the lead singer whose last name is Hamill. I don't know his first name. And he's the lead singer in Kaja Gugu, who's big hit, one hit, Too Shy. Another song I feel like has been overplayed. It's a good song, but Leo Sayer. Yeah, no, yeah, Leo Sayer. You thought Michael Jackson's got a high voice. You listen to Leo Sayer. Joe Walsh's Life's Been Good. There is a YouTube video where Joe Walsh is talking about the meaning behind his songs, and he starts talking about the song. And he says, Some of the song is based on real life. I do have a Maserati. I don't know if it does. I mean, it's supposed to be able to do 185, but he says a lot of people don't realize that when I said I lost my license and now I don't drive, they attribute it to driving 185, which I guess I implied in the song, but it isn't what I meant when I was writing it. What I meant was I couldn't find my wallet. I lost my license and now I can't drive. And I thought I would have never known that. I would have never known because it's implied. I have a Maserati. It does 185. I lost my license. Now I don't drive. Seems to make sense, but it's not what he intended. Sometimes the sometimes the artist doesn't even realize the beauty of what they've created because that is to me far more poetic than just losing your wallet. But it's an interesting he kind of goes through it line by line and he describes how he came up with the line and what it meant. And it's here on YouTube. It's him sitting on the stage with a guitar talking. There was a hit song. I'm looking in the chat. Reminds me. There was a song called "Love and Pride." Was it by the Kings? It was just this one hit, and it was such a catchy song, and it wasn't played on the radio very often. So again, it made it kind of special when I hear it. Love and Pride. Who sang that? King. King. Come on, Carey. Okay, I'm gonna Google. I'm gonna give up here. Love and Pride. King, just King. All right, I was overthinking it. Yeah. There's a very popular British boy band, second only to the Beatles in number one hits and record sales, which most Americans don't know of this band, called Take That. And Take That has had a number of solo artists, just like any other boy band. You know, had those people start their own solo careers. They're very famous in England, but only England, or maybe some parts of Europe, but just never really made it here in the U.S. And they came out with a song, and this band they've been off and on together for like 30 years, right? So I'm like, oh, who's this new band? You know, oh yeah, this new band from 30 years ago. Um, it's called Shine by a group called Take That. And I love the lyrics. I love the music. It's a very inspirational song. And if you've never heard it, you should check it out. What a shame that a band as good as Take That, for whatever reason, just never did anything here in the States. And yet in England, second only to the Beatles as far as a boy band success goes. And Americans are like, you know, the Beatles, what did you say the name of the band was? Take That. Like, how can it be that popular and I've never heard of it? I don't know. There's one of the members of the band, Take That, Gary Barlow, and then there's uh, Robbie. Come on, Carey. See, I'm stepping outside of my own country now on this. It's called. There's a song you should Google this. It's the strangest video you'll ever see, and it's a catchy song, and it's called "Rock DJ." And the name of the singer is a member of the original. Well, I don't know if he's part of the original, but he's part of Take That, or he was at some time. Robbie Williams, and he's a pretty boy, right? He's paid to look pretty, and he has a good voice, and he knows he's paid to look pretty. And he's in this song "Rock DJ." He's probably in his 40s. He's in great shape, and it's this weird video. It's the strangest video I've ever seen. And you know what? The music is really catchy. First time I heard it, I'm like, what is this? And then I'm like, I kind of like it. And I've been playing it over and over. Rock DJ by Robbie Williams. Great song. And you'll never be able to get the video out of your head. You won't ever be able to unsee it. So be warned. Yeah, Sammy Hagar. I never really have been a fan of Sammy Hagar. Pink's okay. Pink's sort of a modern day Joan Jett. You know, when you grew up with Joan Jett, Pink just kind of reminds me of a modern day rebellious, kind of Miley Cyrus was trying to pull that off too. But for me, it's the first time you see it, right? So the first time I saw it was Joan Jett. Then when you see it again, you're sort of like, it doesn't feel fresh and new. You feel like, well, she's just doing what this other person did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Not that she's not talented, but it's very reminiscent. Robbie Williams did a stint with Queen. That's interesting. I would think, and I've talked about this before, there's a band called The Struts. Luke Spiller is the lead singer for The Struts. And the Struts have a pretty good following. They're doing pretty well, but they should be way bigger than they are, in my opinion. And Luke Spiller, his vocal range, his attitude, his look, his sound is so reminiscent of Freddie Mercury. I just don't understand why Queen went with Adam Lambert to be their lead. Luke Spiller. There's a song here. You can look at it here on YouTube, and it's called Could Have Been Me by the Struts. And there's no way you can listen to Could Have Been Me. Watch that video, watch Luke Spiller, listen to him, listen to his voice, and tell me that's not Freddie Mercury reincarnated. Incredible. Luke Spiller should be fronting for Queen, should be the front man for Queen. The Struts Could Have Been Me. If you're a fan of Freddie Mercury, watch that. Tell me I'm not crazy. People are mentioning The Who. I was never really a big fan of The Who. And I was watching Rick and Morty. I'm like, that's a really good song. What's that? It was like Eminence Front. Like, that's a great song. What does that mean? I have no idea. And then what was the other one? It was the Eagles. It was a song I didn't know the Eagles did because it doesn't get a bunch of like a lot of like Hotel California. Oh, I guess Hotel California is going to go on the epic song storytelling list, right? With Stairway to Heaven. Now I'm going back. Stairway to Heaven, No More Tears, Bohemian Rhapsody, Come Sail Away, Children of the Sun, and Hotel California are these epic long 8 minute, songs. But they did a song called what was it called? The Highway on the Highway, and I didn't know that was the Eagles. I'm like, I love that song, and for whatever reason, I just never connected it to the Eagles. I gotta look it up because now I'm probably got the name wrong. In the City, in the City. Yeah, 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 yeah. Like when I think of Eagles songs, I think of Heartache Tonight and Hotel California. Um, and again, when I think of the Eagles, I also kind of confuse it with Little River Band. Lonesome Loser kind of sounds a little Eagle-ish. But In the City was on a Rick and Morty episode, and I'm like, what song is that? I've heard that before. Really like it. And I was like, the Eagles? Never realized it. Brian May says Adam Lambert is easy to get along with and a good singer. Again, here on YouTube, there is a video of James Corden of The Late Show talking about how he didn't think Adam Lambert was as good of a frontman for Queen as he could have been. Like he thinks he's a better singer than Adam. And then Adam kind of, oh, look who's here! It's Adam Lambert. Let's have a sing off. And it was cool. It was really neat. It was funny, and James Corden actually can sing, which is surprising. isn't in the city a Joe Walsh song? I think it's the Eagles. I don't think it's Joe Walsh. Am I wrong? It would make more sense if it was Joe Walsh listed as the artist, but I thought it was the Eagles. Oh, it is Joe Walsh. Well, that explains that then, doesn't it? I'm like, I don't remember hearing this on any of the Eagles albums. My brother had a lot of Eagles albums, and I don't ever recall it being on an Eagles album. But of course, Joe Walsh had a number of hits like Rocky Mountain Way, Funk Number 49. Well, like we early mentioned, Life's Been Good is a great song. And of course, In the City, Joe Walsh. Thank you for the correction. And now I completely understand how it kind of went by me for 40 years. It was literally like 2 years ago when I was like, I've heard the song. And it's Joe Walsh. It freaked me out because I thought I knew all this old music and I didn't know who did it and I couldn't tell you the name of it. And when I looked it up, it was like the Eagles, but it was Joe Walsh. So thank you. You guys are right. Keep me honest. Pumba Bear mentions Red Riders, Lunatic Fringe. Yeah, right on. Lunatic Fringe is a great song. Also reminds me of Twilight Zone and Radar Love. There's this group. What are they? 20 years between hits? They had two hits 20 years apart. Who does that? Uh, Golden Earring. Are they from Holland or something? And they had this hit. And then they kind of vanished. They came back like 20 years later and had another hit. And for some reason, I don't know why, Lunatic Fringe from Red Rider reminds me of Golden Earring. So anyway, it is fun to talk about music. The real, I can't read that. It says the Struts are now on my playlist. Thanks, Gary. Oh, the Struts have so many good songs. The Struts have a song with Kesha. It's very, in fact, well, there's two versions. There's one where Kesha's not in it. It's not as good, in my opinion. Check out their music. It's all very good. But the Could Have Been Me sounds the most like Freddie Mercury. And I think he's doing it with intention because Luke Spiller doesn't always sound like that. And it's great, kind of back to the basics rock and roll. It's good to see this generation embrace that. It's classic in its style. Curtis says that was some video. Must be referencing Rock DJ by Robbie Williams, right? You can't unsee that now. Jerry Rafferty. So Jerry Rafferty, the song Baker Street and Right Down the Line, and what was that other song he had? Get It Right Next Time. He was the lead singer for Steelers Wheel back in the day. He is the one who sings Stuck in the Middle with You, and then went off and started his solo career. Great saxophone work in Baker Street, though. What a great, a lot of saxophone in 80s music, Hall and Oates and Huey Lewis and um, Quarter Flash, Pardon My Heart. So many men at work. The saxophone, Foreigner had songs with saxophone, was very big in 80s music. And so any music that had saxophone in it was like an automatic like in my book. Maneater has this great saxophone solo. Um, Urgent has a great, Urgent by Foreigner, great saxophone solo. I actually have a playlist on Spotify called Saxophone Favorites. And all I did is list songs, and I was surprised how many there were. Because off the top of my head, I remember a handful, but as I started to list them, I was like, wow, a lot of saxophone in 80s music. Not so much today. You don't really hear the saxophone on the modern music much. Love and Spoonful. That song, Summer in the City, was a great song. That is a really good song. All right, we've been running now 3.5 hours. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. It was cool hanging out with you guys today just to hang out. I've got a ton of work I've got to get done, which is ah not doing itself, unfortunately. So I guess I'm going to wrap it up. Someone mentions the cult. I love the cult. Firewoman, she sells Sanctuary. Uh, there's one other one. I think there's two more the cult do. Very catchy riffs. The cult and In Excess, I think, are very good at someone's mentioning Billy Squier, very good at making good guitar hooks that get you hooked into the song with a catchy guitar hook. And Access was really good at it. The Cult is really good at it. And Billy Squier was also very good at it. I'm trying to think of, there's always this one song by The Cult that I can never think of, and I love it. Let me Google that before I go because I have to know. There might be two, but I know there's Firewoman, she sells Sanctuary. For some reason, Susie and the Banshees shows up on my search. Fun little group. Peekaboo, remember that song from the 80s? What a weird song that was. Um, Come on, she sells Sanctuary, Fire. Oh, Love Removal Machine was a good one, and there's still one more. I know Sweet Soul Sister was a big hit, but that's not what I'm thinking of. Oh, there's one more. Wildflower. Wildflower. If you've never listened to a cult song ever in your life and you want to know what we're talking about, it's rock and roll, kind of bordering on heavy metal. It's not quite heavy metal, but it's serious rock. Start with Wildflower by The Cult and see if you don't end up subconsciously just moving your head to the rhythm. It's very catchy. It's got a real good guitar hook. All right. That's going to wrap it up for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. And I see my buddy Ron there has been with me the whole night. I know it's 3 hours ahead where you are. He says, Love Removal Machine. That's my ex-wife. All right. Do I have an LED light I can use to light up my face? No, I don't. And I wouldn't use it. The kitchen setup, it's already got too many cables and wires and stuff. So I have a very minimal setup in here so I can break it down. But in the other studio, that should be addressed, but not here. Someone mentions the J Gals band. Yeah, J Gals, Peter Wolf. That's the guy's name, Peter Wolf. Look it up. Um, yeah, Centerfold, Freeze Frame, Love Stinks. Great music. Great 80s music. So thanks to everybody who contributed during today's broadcast. Let me give a shout out and thanks to all these folks one more time. Jose and Veronica Lopez, Mari Yoel, Reviewing, Playing, and More RPM, Kevin Arsena, George Regalado, Jose and Veronica Lopez again, Mari Yoel again, Armando Garcia, Mari Yoel again, George Morris, Ascended, Rain One Full, Michael Dane, George Z, Bordura Catalan, George Z twice in a row there, Kevin Arsenault again, Sharon Idle, Michael Dane, David Griswold, Madi again, George again, and Kevin again, and Madi again. Frankie B, G Greenberg, Stuart McMillan, John Craig, Mike Yazzie, Rick Hubbard, and the first contribution was from Kuro Yuki Kuro Yuki. It was from Kuro. Contributed $5. I guess I missed that one entirely. That's terrible. Kuro contributed $5 and said, so this is faster than the Samsung 970 Evo Plus? That reference is back 3 hours ago, in case you're just joining us. Thanks to you guys for supporting the channel. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And I appreciate the interaction, you know, the back and forth, something we can't do in any other media, really. It's not quite the same typing back and forth. In TV, you know, that's one direction only. So it's fun to kind of virtually hang out. And I'm glad that that you decided to hang out with me tonight. So stay safe. I'll see you all again. We've got a lot more videos coming up, more reviews, more builds, more repairs, more of the same, and back to business, back to work. I'll see you all very, very soon. And until then,